Yetzira. This will be the last chapter of the kind Reinhard, thank you for being patient. Also for those who are criticizing me for using AI to clean my grammars. Mind your business, man, write your own story for all I care, if you can't stand reading this then just stop. Throw some stones, bastards. Dash. Arriving in his golden domain, Gladsheimer, Reinhard immediately felt the shift in the atmosphere. The immense power and gravity of the place were palpable, a testament to his dominion and might. As he settled onto his throne, Milum cradled securely in one arm, he called upon the 7 primordial angels. Within moments, the 7 celestial beings materialized before him. The atmosphere within Gladsheimer weighed heavily on them, a constant reminder of Reinhard's overwhelming power. Each step they took towards his throne seemed to solidify the reality that they were entirely at his mercy, bound by his will. The aura of the domain was oppressive, filling them with a mixture of awe and dread. Reaching the base of his throne, the primordial angels knelt in unison, heads bowed in reverence. Lord Reinhard, we are here. What are your orders? Their voices harmonized, each one laced with a mix of fear and respect. Reinhard's eyes glowed with a fierce intensity as he gazed down upon them. Heaven shall be locked off, he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast hall. Milum is not yet old enough to inherit it, and I will not risk its stability in her infancy. The angels nodded, understanding the gravity of his order. It shall be done, Lord Reinhard. Furthermore, Reinhard continued, his tone unwavering, you are to follow the last orders of my father, whatever they may be. I do not care for the specifics, but you will ensure that his will is carried out to the letter. The primordial angels acknowledged his directive with a unified, as you command, Lord Reinhard. Satisfied with their response, Reinhard dismissed them with a wave of his hand. The angels rose, their presence in the golden domain fleeting as they departed to carry out his orders. As they left, the oppressive atmosphere of Gladsheimer seemed to lighten slightly, though its overwhelming presence remained. With the angels gone, Reinhard turned his attention back to Milum, who was peacefully asleep in his arms. He felt a profound sense of responsibility and determination, knowing that her future rested in his hands. Despite the challenges ahead, Reinhard was resolute in his commitment to raising and protecting his sister, ensuring that she would one day inherit the legacy of their father. Reinhard sat on his throne, deep in thought. He knew that in order to fully protect Milum and uphold his promise, he would need to reclaim the full extent of his power. After a moment of contemplation, he made a decisive move. He reached out with his hand, and with a mere thought, the swastika monument located in Dagruel's territory shattered. The breaking of this seal sent ripples of immense energy throughout the entire cardinal world. The ground trembled, and the sky darkened as the insane power contained within the swastika was released. The power unleashed was so formidable that it could have easily destroyed the entire cardinal world with a single slash. From the shattered monument, a radiant light emerged, revealing Reinhard's true holy relic, Luminous testament. The spear gleamed with overwhelming might, a symbol of Reinhard's true power and dominion. Reinhard's eyes glinted with satisfaction as he grasped the spear, feeling its immense energy coursing through him. With this relic in his possession, he felt an even greater sense of readiness to face any challenges that might come his way. Across the cardinal world, powerful beings sensed the monument's destruction and the emergence of the Luminous testament. The sheer magnitude of the event left them in awe and trepidation, realizing that Reinhard had reclaimed a portion of his true strength. Back in his golden domain, Reinhard stood tall, the spear held firmly in his hand. He gazed down at Milum, who remained asleep, unaware of the monumental shift in power that had just occurred. Reinhard, with Luminous testament in hand, felt the immense power coursing through him. He turned his gaze towards the resting place of his father's lifeless body. With a determined expression, he knew what needed to be done. Father, Reinhard whispered. He raised the spear high, channeling its overwhelming energy into a single point of radiant light. The golden aura enveloped the corpse of Veldanava, causing it to glow intensely. Lord of Wisdom, Raphael, Reinhard called out in his mind. Begin the calculations. Transform my father's body into a new being. A true dragon. Raphael responded immediately, its calculating speed unmatched. Understood, Master. Commencing transformation process. The spear's power surged, guided by Raphael's precise calculations. The corpse of Veldanava began to shift and change, shrinking in size. Bones reshaped, scales grew, and a new form emerged from the radiant light. The process was intense, every detail meticulously calculated by Raphael. As the light dimmed, a small dragon lay where Veldanava's body had once been. It was a newborn true dragon, its scales shimmering with a deep, iridescent hue. Reinhard gazed at the creature, a mixture of satisfaction and reverence in his eyes. Velgaia, Reinhard declared, naming the new being. You shall be Velgaia, a future playmate for Milum and also her new sibling. I won't acknowledge you as a sibling of mine. Velgaia blinked its large, curious eyes, sensing the immense power and authority of Reinhard. It let out a soft, melodic growl, a sign of its recognition and acceptance. Reinhard gently placed Milum next to Velgaia, watching as the newborn dragon nuzzled against her. There was a profound sense of peace in this moment, knowing that both Milum and Velgaia would grow together, strong and protected. The golden domain of Gladsheimer radiated with an even greater brilliance, a testament to the rebirth of a new true dragon and the unyielding will of Reinhard. As he stood watch over the two young beings, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the power of Longinusland's testament, I will shape a future where Milum and Velgaia can thrive, Reinhard vowed. No force in this world or beyond shall threaten their safety or our dominion. ... Several years had passed since the rebirth of Velgaia and the establishment of Gladsheimer as a new moon in the cardinal world. Within the golden domain, life had taken on a new rhythm. Milum, now the same size as her anime counterpart, was in the kitchen, her eyes glued to her brother as he meticulously baked a cake. Reinhard, having discovered a rare sense of peace in these domestic activities, worked with precision and grace, his movements almost hypnotic. For Milum, watching her brother had become a cherished hobby. Having grown up with only Reinhard and Velgaia as her companions, she was deeply attached to them. Her bright, curious eyes followed every step of the baking process, her excitement palpable. Brother, hurry up, I'm hungry, Milum called out, her voice carrying a familiar blend of impatience and affection. She bounced on her toes, unable to contain her excitement any longer. Reinhard glanced over his shoulder, a rare, soft smile touching his lips. Patience, Milum, good things come to those who wait. Milum pouted, crossing her arms. But waiting is so boring. I want cake now. Reinhard chuckled softly, turning back to his work. It won't be much longer. Just a few more minutes. Milum sighed dramatically but continued to watch, her eyes widening with anticipation as the delicious aroma of the baking cake filled the kitchen. She had grown accustomed to Reinhard's calm and collected demeanor, even when indulging in such mundane tasks. It was a stark contrast to her own boundless energy and enthusiasm. Velgaia, now larger and more majestic, lounged nearby, watching the interaction with mild curiosity. The bond between the siblings and the dragon had grown strong over the years, each finding a sense of family and belonging in their unique circumstances. Finally, the cake was ready. Reinhard carefully removed it from the oven, the golden brown confection a masterpiece of his careful efforts. He set it on the counter to cool, then began to prepare the icing. Milum could hardly contain herself. She hovered close, practically vibrating with excitement. It looks so good. Can I have a piece now? Reinhard shook his head, smiling at her impatience. Not yet. It needs to cool first, and then I'll add the icing. Just a little longer. Milum huffed but stayed close, her eyes never leaving the cake. Fine, but it better be the best cake ever. Reinhard nodded, his expression serene. It will be, Milum. Just for you. As he worked on the finishing touches, Milum's excitement grew even more. Despite her impatience, she treasured these moments with her brother, finding comfort and joy in their simple routines. For Reinhard, these quiet moments were a rare respite from the weight of his responsibilities, a chance to bond with his beloved sister and enjoy the peace they had carved out in their golden domain. With the cake finally ready, Reinhard cut a generous slice and handed it to Milum. She took it eagerly, her eyes lighting up as she took her first bite. This is amazing, brother. Thank you. Reinhard's smile widened, a rare but genuine expression of happiness. I'm glad you like it, Milum. Happy birthday. Milum beamed, her joy filling the room with warmth. It's the best birthday ever. You're the best, brother. As they shared the cake, Reinhard felt a profound sense of fulfillment. As they finished the last crumbs of cake, Reinhard gently guided Milum towards her bedroom within Gladsheimer. She protested, her youthful energy still high from the sugar rush. But I don't want to read, brother. I want to play more. Milum exclaimed, her voice filled with the stubbornness of youth. Reinhard sighed softly, his expression firm yet gentle. Milum, playing is important, but so is learning. These books will help you understand many things. They're not just stories, they're lessons in courage, wisdom, and leadership. Milum crossed her arms, pouting slightly. But I don't need to lead an army. I just want to have fun. Reinhard knelt down to her level, his eyes meeting hers with a seriousness that belied his usual calm demeanor. Milum, you are strong and powerful. But strength alone is not enough. You need knowledge and wisdom to guide your strength. Learning to read and understand these stories will make you even stronger. Milum hesitated, sensing the earnestness in Reinhard's words. She knew he only wanted the best for her, even if it meant doing things she didn't always enjoy. With a reluctant nod, she took the books from him. Fine, I'll read them, Milum conceded, her voice softening. But only because you said so, brother. Reinhard smiled warmly, relieved that she had acquiesced. Thank you, Milum. I promise you'll enjoy them. And if you have any questions or want to talk about the stories, I'll always be here. Milum nodded again, her curiosity now piqued despite her initial resistance. She settled onto her bed with the books, flipping through the pages as Reinhard watched over her with a sense of quiet pride. Each story held a lesson, subtly imparting values that would shape Milum's understanding of the world. As Milum immersed herself in the tales of Disney princesses and their adventures, Reinhard remained nearby, occasionally explaining difficult words or discussing the deeper meanings behind the stories. He wanted her to not only read but to comprehend and learn from each narrative. Hours passed, and soon the evening sun began to set outside Gladsheimer. Milum, now engrossed in her reading, had forgotten her earlier protests. She looked up at Reinhard with newfound admiration. These stories are amazing, brother. Milum exclaimed, her eyes bright with excitement. The princesses are so brave and smart. I want to be like them. Reinhard smiled, pleased to see her enthusiasm. You can be, Milum. With strength and knowledge, you can be anything you want to be. Milum nodded, her determination renewed. I'll learn everything, just like you, brother. Reinhard's heart swelled with pride. He knew that guiding Milum towards knowledge and strength was crucial, not just for her sake, but for the future they would face together. After tucking Milum into bed, Reinhard's expression hardened. The gentleness he reserved for his sister gave way to the cold, domineering presence that defined him. He turned away from her sleeping form and left the room, his steps measured and resolute. He made his way to his private chamber, where a sealed report awaited him. Feldway had sent news of an anomaly in a nearby world occupied by cryptids, an anomaly significant enough to pique Reinhard's interest. Feldway's report mentioned that one of the cryptids had gained sentience, an occurrence that should have been impossible. Reinhard opened the report, scanning its contents with a keen eye. The details were sparse, but the implications were clear. Something had disrupted the natural order, and it needed to be addressed. Interesting, Reinhard muttered to himself. A sentient cryptid. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a portal to the designated world. Stepping through, he felt the familiar rush of energy as he traversed dimensions. When he arrived, the landscape before him was barren and desolate, a testament to the harsh environment these cryptids thrived in. The moment he set foot on the planet, a palpable shift occurred. The cryptids, monstrous and primal beings, halted in their tracks, sensing the overwhelming presence of Reinhard. His aura, cold and destructive, permeated the air, causing even the most ferocious creatures to cower in fear. Reinhard surveyed the area, his gaze sharp and unyielding. Despite having lost most of his energy, his body still radiated immense power. The nearly 100 million souls he had accumulated continued to nourish him, maintaining his formidable strength. He moved forward, the cryptids parting before him like a sea. They could feel the raw, untamed power coursing through him, a power that far surpassed their own. His every step was a reminder of his dominance, and none dared challenge him. Reinhard's search led him to the heart of the anomaly. There, standing among its kin, was the cryptid that had gained sentience. It was different from the others, its eyes held a spark of intelligence, a glimmer of awareness that set it apart. The sentient cryptid regarded Reinhard with a mix of fear and curiosity. It was aware of its own uniqueness, and it could sense the danger posed by the being before it. Reinhard observed the creature silently, his mind racing with possibilities. This anomaly could be a threat or an opportunity, depending on how he chose to handle it. Tell me, Reinhard spoke, his voice echoing with authority. How did you come to be? The cryptid hesitated, its newfound sentience struggling to find the right words. I do not know. I woke up different. I understand things now, things I could not before. Reinhard's eyes narrowed. Interesting. Your existence is an anomaly, one that should not occur. Yet here you are. Reinhard observed the sentient cryptid with keen interest. The anomaly before him was a rare occurrence, one that warranted further attention. The creature's newfound intelligence was evident in its cautious gaze and hesitant movements. I will give you a name, Reinhard declared, his voice cold and commanding. From now on, you shall be known as Luminous. The cryptid, now named Luminous, blinked in surprise. The act of naming was a powerful one, and it signified Reinhard's acknowledgement of its existence and potential. Luminous, Reinhard continued, you are the first of a new race. Those who come after you will be known as insectars. You are naturally born fighters, and your existence is a testament to that. Luminous bowed its head in understanding, the gravity of Reinhard's words sinking in. The responsibility of being the progenitor of a new race weighed heavily on its shoulders, but it accepted the role with determination. Reinhardt's gaze hardened as he issued a warning. Do not interfere with the angels. They serve a higher purpose and are not to be trifled with. Understand this, and you may continue to exist. Yes, Lord Reinhardt, Luminous replied, its voice steady despite the fear that still lingered. With his warning delivered, Reinhardt turned to leave. As he prepared to step through the portal back to Gladsheimer, he sensed a presence from a realm adjacent to this one. It was a presence that challenged his very concept of destruction, a power that piqued his interest. However, Reinhardt quickly realized that this presence was hibernating. The being was in a state of rest, and Reinhardt had no interest in disturbing a foe that posed no immediate threat. Another time, he muttered to himself, making a mental note of the presence for future consideration. Stepping through the portal, Reinhardt left the world of the cryptids behind. Luminous watched him go, understanding the magnitude of the opportunity and challenge that lay ahead. Back in Gladsheimer, Reinhardt returned to his throne, his mind already racing with new plans and possibilities. The creation of the insectars was just the beginning, a small piece in the grand tapestry of his designs. He leaned back, his cold eyes surveying his golden domain. The future was filled with uncertainties, but one thing was clear: Reinhardt would continue to shape the world according to his will, unyielding and unstoppable. As he settled into his throne, his thoughts turned back to Milum and the responsibilities that awaited him. The balance of power in the cardinal world was ever-shifting, and Reinhardt was determined to stay ahead of it, no matter the cost. I spared Luminous for a reason, he will be useful for Reinhardt in the future. 12 comments 0 vote. Visit of a friend. Reinhardt returned to Gladsheimer, the golden domain resonating with his presence. He settled onto his throne, his mind wandering to a peculiar event that had occurred some time ago. In Ramirez's labyrinth, during one of his many experiments, he had summoned a spirit unlike any other. This spirit seemed to have traversed through time itself to be with him, an anomaly that both intrigued and perplexed him. As he leaned back, Reinhardt summoned Raphael, his ever-faithful ultimate skill. Raphael, report on the foreign spirit within me, he commanded. Analysis complete, Raphael responded promptly. The spirit is still dormant within you. It appears to require a significant external stimulation to awaken fully. Reinhardt pondered this information, his fingers drumming against the armrest of his throne. The idea of a spirit powerful enough to traverse time was fascinating, but it also presented a potential risk. What kind of power would it unleash once awakened? And more importantly, what did it seek from him? Shaking his head, Reinhardt decided to push these thoughts aside for the moment. There were more pressing matters at hand, and dwelling on the spirit would not bring any immediate answers. His gaze shifted to the vast expanse of Gladsheimer, his domain of absolute authority and control. He closed his eyes, allowing his mind to clear. Reinhardt had always thrived on control and precision, and he would need both in abundance for the challenges that lay ahead. The spirit within him could wait. For now, his focus was on solidifying his rule and ensuring the stability of his world. Reinhardt's thoughts were interrupted by a faint but insistent mental tug. It was Milum, reaching out to him through their unique bond. He could sense her impatience and curiosity, no doubt eager for his attention and guidance. With a resigned sigh, Reinhardt opened his eyes. He couldn't afford to neglect Milum, not when she was so crucial to the future he envisioned. Rising from his throne, he made his way to her room, where she would undoubtedly be waiting with boundless energy and endless questions. As he walked through the corridors of Gladsheimer, the golden light casting long shadows, Reinhardt reached Milum's room, where he found her already awake and visibly bored, her energy barely contained. As he entered, she brightened up, jumping to her feet with an excited expression. Brother, can we play something? I'm so bored, she exclaimed, her voice carrying a hint of impatience. Reinhardt pondered for a moment, considering her request. He knew Milum's boundless energy needed a proper outlet, and something physical would likely be the best option. An idea formed in his mind, and he nodded, a rare smile tugging at the corner of his lips. All right, Milum, let's play catch. With a wave of his hand, Reinhardt conjured a legend-class baseball and gloves, crafted from materials so resilient that they could withstand the power of nuclear magics. He handed one glove to Milum, who put it on with enthusiasm, and kept the other for himself. The baseball, shimmering with a golden aura, seemed to pulse with latent energy. They moved to an open area within Gladsheimer, the vast golden expanse providing ample space for their game. Reinhardt took his position, and with a simple yet powerful motion, he threw the ball. It shot through the air with a force that surpassed the speed of sound, a sonic boom echoing through the domain. Milum, undeterred, caught the ball with ease, her own strength matching the challenge. She laughed, the sound pure and joyful, before winding up and hurling the ball back at Reinhard. The game quickly escalated, their throws becoming increasingly powerful, each one a testament to their immense strength. To an outside observer, their game of catch would have been nothing short of hellish. The speed and force of their throws created shockwaves that would have leveled entire cities, yet within the unbreakable confines of Gladsheimer, they had no such worries. The golden walls absorbed the impacts without a single tremor, allowing them to play without restraint. Reinhard observed Milum as they played, her laughter and excitement infectious. This simple activity, a game of catch, was a rare moment of normalcy in their otherwise extraordinary lives. It reminded him of the importance of balance, of giving Milum moments of joy and freedom amidst her training and education. After several intense rounds, they finally slowed down, both of them breathing heavily but smiling. Milum looked up at Reinhard, her eyes sparkling with happiness. That was so much fun. You're the best, brother. Reinhard nodded, feeling a sense of satisfaction. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Milum. It's important to have fun, but remember, training and learning are just as crucial. Milum nodded, her expression turning serious for a moment. I know. I'll be strong and smart, just like you want. Reinhard ruffled her hair affectionately, a rare display of affection. I have no doubt you will be, Milum. Now, let's get you cleaned up and then perhaps we can read more from your storybooks. As they made their way back inside, Reinhard couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. When they returned to the living room inside Gladsheimer, Reinhard and Milum paused, sensing a presence outside the domain. The aura was powerful and insistent, throwing large-scale magic against the domain's unyielding barrier in an attempt to gain their attention. Milum looked up at Reinhard, curiosity lighting up her eyes. Is it a friend of yours, brother? She asked, tilting her head. Reinhard's expression hardened slightly, a rare frown forming on his face. No, Milum, not a friend. Despite his words, Reinhard made a decision. With a wave of his hand, he opened a gateway, allowing the intruder to enter. The figure stepped through, revealing the diminutive but energetic form of Ramirez, the Queen of Spirits. She floated into the grand hall, looking around with wide eyes, taking in the splendor of Reinhard's domain for the first time. Reinhard, Ramirez called out, her voice echoing through the expansive room. She flew over to them, her wings fluttering excitedly. Finally, I managed to get in. Reinhard crossed his arms, his gaze stern but not unkind. Ramirez, what is it that you want? You should know better than to assault my domain. Ramirez pouted, her hands on her hips. Oh, come on. You know we're best friends, right? I just had to see you. It's been ages since we last met. Milum watched the exchange with interest, her eyes darting between Reinhard and Ramirez. Brother, is she really not your friend? She seems to know you pretty well. Reinhard sighed, shaking his head. Ramirez and I have shared memories, yes. She believes we are best friends, but my understanding of friendship is different. Ramirez puffed out her cheeks in mock annoyance. You're such a cold fish, Reinhard. But that's okay, I know deep down you care. Reinhard's lips twitched in what could almost be considered a smile. Think what you will, Ramirez. What brings you here, really? Ramirez floated closer, her expression turning serious. I sensed a massive surge of power and saw this incredible golden domain. I just had to see what you were up to. And, well, I missed you. Reinhard glanced at Milum, who was now looking at Ramirez with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Very well, you're here now. But refrain from causing any more disturbances. Ramirez grinned, giving a mock salute. Aye, Captain. Reinhard turned to Milum. Milum, why don't you show Ramirez around? I'll join you both shortly. Milum nodded eagerly. Okay, brother. Come on, Ramirez, I'll show you all the cool stuff. As Milum and Ramirez floated off, chattering animatedly, Reinhard watched them go, a contemplative look on his face. Despite his earlier dismissal, there was a certain fondness he felt for Ramirez, a remnant of the times they had shared. Perhaps her presence would be a welcome distraction for Milum. Ramirez and Milum floated through the grand halls of Gladsheimer, their conversation lively and animated. The domain was a breathtaking mix of golden architecture and otherworldly beauty, a testament to Reinhard's immense power and taste. As they moved, Ramirez couldn't help but share her memories with the younger Milum. You know, when I first met Reinhard, he was so cold and distant, Ramirez began, her eyes sparkling with the recollection. He barely acknowledged my presence and always seemed lost in his thoughts. But over time, he opened up a bit. I think he started to see me as more than just an annoying fairy. Milum giggled, her interest piqued. Really, I can't imagine brother being anything but kind, at least to me. What changed? Ramirez grinned. I kept pestering him, of course. And he saw that I wasn't going anywhere. Plus, he realized I had some useful skills and knowledge. Eventually, he started to share his incredible inventions with me. You have no idea how much his gadgets have changed my life. She paused, dramatically pulling out a small, intricate device from her pocket. Like this. It's a magical energy converter. It helps me channel my powers more efficiently. Reinhard made it for me. Milum's eyes widened in admiration. That's so cool. Brother really is amazing. But you know, he spoils me a lot too. Ramirez raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, how so? Milum beamed, her pride evident. Well, he teaches me so many things. He even bakes me cakes and plays catch with me. And look at this. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a beautifully crafted pendant. He made this for me. It has protective charms and everything. He says it's to keep me safe. Ramirez examined the pendant, her expression softening. That's really beautiful, Milum. He must care about you a lot. The two continued their tour, with Milum eagerly showing off various parts of Gladsheimer, each area more impressive than the last. As they passed through a grand library filled with ancient tomes and magical artifacts, Ramirez couldn't help but be amazed. Wow, this place is incredible, Ramirez said, her voice filled with awe. Reinhardt's domain is like a treasure trove of knowledge and power. Milum nodded enthusiastically. It is. Brother says I need to learn a lot to become strong and wise. He wants me to be able to command an army someday. Ramirez chuckled. He's always thinking ahead, isn't he? That's one thing I admire about him. He always has a plan. Milum's eyes sparkled with excitement. Yes. And he's teaching me everything he knows. I want to be just like him when I grow up. Ramirez smiled warmly. You're lucky to have him, Milum. And I'm sure you'll become just as amazing as he is, if not more. As they continued to explore Gladsheimer, their conversation remained centered around Reinhard. Ramirez shared more stories of their past encounters, while Milum eagerly soaked up every detail, adding her own experiences to the mix. It was clear that both of them held Reinhard in the highest regard, each cherishing the unique bond they had with him. Eventually, they reached a beautiful garden filled with rare and exotic plants, a serene contrast to the grandeur of the rest of Gladsheimer. They settled onto a bench, still chatting animatedly. You know, Milum, Ramirez said, her tone turning thoughtful. Reinhard might seem distant and intimidating to others, but to those he cares about, he's incredibly protective and kind. It's a rare quality, and it makes him very special. Milum nodded, her expression serious. I know, Ramirez. He's the best brother ever. I'll always be grateful to him. Ramirez smiled, feeling a deep sense of camaraderie with the young girl. Despite their different experiences, they shared a common bond through Reinhard, and it made their connection all the more meaningful. As they sat there, surrounded by the beauty of Gladsheimer, they both felt a profound sense of contentment, knowing they were part of something extraordinary. As Ramirez and Milum continued their tour of Gladsheimer, Ramirez suddenly paused, her expression shifting as she received a telepathic message from Reinhard. I'll be leaving Milum with you for a while. Velgaia will guard you both. Take care of her. The message was brief, but its implications were clear. Ramirez nodded to herself, then turned to Milum. Looks like we'll be spending some more time together, Milum. Milum, always eager for more company and adventure, cheered. Yay, let's go find something fun to do. Just then, Velgaia, the small dragon formed from Veldanava's essence, appeared, silently taking its place as their protector. Its presence was reassuring, a symbol of Reinhardt's careful planning and care for those he cherished. Reinhard teleported to the cardinal world, his overwhelming presence immediately drawing attention. Within moments, the three true dragons Veldora, Velzard, and Velgrind flew towards him, their curiosity and concern evident. Veldora, always the most brash, was the first to speak. Reinhard, what's going on? Why are you here? Reinhard spoke. I've got some big news. There's a new true dragon. One I made from father's flesh. The dragons stared at him in shock. Velzard, usually composed, looked taken aback. You made another true dragon? How is that even possible? Reinhard shrugged, a glint of pride in his eyes. It wasn't easy, but I did it. This new dragon is in Gladsheimer right now, growing stronger every day. Velgrind's fiery demeanor was tempered by concern. Why did you do it? What's the purpose? Reinhard's expression turned serious. It felt necessary. This new dragon will be powerful, a valuable ally for Milum. I thought you all should know. Veldora, uncharacteristically subdued, asked, can we meet this new dragon? Not yet, Reinhard replied. It's still developing. When the time is right, I'll introduce you. The dragons exchanged looks, processing the news. Finally, Velzard nodded, her icy exterior softening slightly. All right, Reinhard, we trust you. Keep us informed. Reinhard smiled, appreciating their trust. Will do. For now, just know it's in good hands. With that, the true dragons took off, leaving Reinhard alone. He watched them go, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for whatever came next. Satisfied with his announcement, Reinhard teleported back to Gladsheimer, ready to continue guiding the new dragon's growth and keeping an eye on the future. 4 comments 0 vote. Second true demon lord. For the bastards who were yearning for him, here ya go. I'll return the Reinhard Heydrich you wish degree. Throw some stones, alright. Reinhard decided that it was finally time to show Milum the towns outside Gladsheimer. They left the Golden Domain and made their way towards a bustling human settlement. Milum's excitement was palpable. This was her first time venturing beyond her brother's realm. As they entered the town, Milum's eyes widened in wonder at the sights and sounds. She darted around, marveling at the market stalls, the lively streets, and the myriad of humans going about their day. Reinhard walked calmly beside her, keeping a watchful eye. In the middle of their walk, a man hurriedly turned a corner and bumped into Milum. She stumbled slightly but quickly regained her balance. Instead of apologizing, the man scowled, his face contorting with anger. Watch where you're going, you little brat. He snapped, glaring at Milum. Your guardian should have taught you better than to get in the way. Reinhard's eyes narrowed, and the air around them grew heavy with his presence. An intense aura began to emanate from him, causing the man and everyone else nearby to falter. The man, feeling the pressure, tried to stand his ground but found himself forced to his knees. The entire town square fell silent as people around them were overwhelmed by the oppressive force, dropping to their knees in fear and awe. Milum looked up at her brother, sensing his displeasure. Reinhard's gaze remained fixed on the man, his expression cold and unyielding. The man trembled, unable to lift his head under the weight of Reinhard's aura. Everyone in the vicinity was now kneeling, their eyes wide with terror and respect for the immense power radiating from Reinhard. The town was deathly silent as everyone knelt, bowing under the oppressive weight of Reinhard's aura. His cold eyes scanned the crowd, finally resting on the man who had dared to speak against Milum. Because of this man's disrespect towards my sister, Reinhard's voice rang out, echoing through the square, your entire town is now fated for destruction at my hands. A wave of panic washed over the townspeople, their fear palpable. Reinhard continued, his tone icy and commanding. Blame him for your impending doom. His unruliness has sealed your fate. This is your punishment for allowing such behavior to go unchecked. The crowd began to murmur, anger and fear mingling as they turned their gazes towards the man. The weight of their collective blame bore down on him, and he looked around in terror. The once confident sneer had vanished, replaced by a mask of horror. Reinhard watched with a detached amusement as the townspeople's murmurs grew louder, their blame intensifying. They pointed at the man, their accusations flying. The man, overwhelmed by the pressure, fell to the ground, unable to move or speak. With a swift motion, Reinhard stepped forward and, in a flash of light, cut the man's neck. The man's lifeless body crumpled to the ground, and a collective gasp rose from the crowd. They stared in shock and horror, the reality of their situation sinking in. The source of your blame is no more, Reinhard said, his voice cold and devoid of mercy. Find a new one before I get bored. Panic took over, and the crowd quickly turned their wrath towards the man's family, who trembled in fear. Shouts of accusation filled the air as stones were thrown, and the family was dragged forward, their pleas for mercy drowned out by the frenzied mob. They were brought before Reinhard, offered up as sacrifices in a desperate attempt to appease him. But instead of sparing them, Reinhard simply threw his head back and laughed maniacally. The sound echoed through the town, a chilling reminder of their fate. Ha 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 ha. Their pathetic actions only amused him further, and the townspeople realized, too late, that their suffering was far from over. Reinhard's laughter died down, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. He surveyed the terrified crowd, his expression one of cold amusement. Only those who are of worth are to be forgiven and loved by me, he declared, his voice ringing out across the town square. Show me your worth, or face your fate. Panic erupted anew as the townspeople scrambled to prove their value. They shouted over each other, boasting of their skills, their talents, their contributions to the town. It was a chaotic cacophony of desperate pleas and self-promotion, a pathetic spectacle that only served to entertain Reinhard further. He watched them for a moment, letting their desperation build. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he raised his hand and pointed at a man in the crowd. The man exploded in a burst of light and blood, the crowd recoiling in horror. Reinhard's smile grew crueler. I will start checking now, he said, his tone mockingly casual. The crowd's confusion deepened. Talented individuals, the ones they had thought might be spared, were being pointed at and exploding one by one. Their boasting turned to screams of confusion and terror as they realized they couldn't predict or control their fate. Reinhard moved methodically, pointing and exploding one person after another. The townspeople's attempts to understand the criteria for survival became increasingly frantic and futile. The scene was one of utter chaos, their once proud town descending into a hellish nightmare. Despite the escalating panic, Reinhard remained calm, almost bored. He took his time, savoring their suffering. By the time he had finished, the town was a wasteland of destruction and death. Not one person had managed to escape his wrath. Reinhard looked upon the ruins with a satisfied smirk. Playtime is over, he murmured to himself, turning away from the carnage. Beside him, Milum watched with a mixture of fascination and awe, taking in the sheer power and ruthlessness of her brother. As they walked away from the town, leaving the desolation behind, Reinhard's thoughts were already turning to their next destination. For him, this was just another day, another demonstration of his absolute authority and power. As Reinhard and Milum walked away from the desolated town, Milum skipped along, her excitement not dampened by the destruction they left behind. Reinhard's mind wandered, considering the next steps in his plans, when a sudden mental message from Luminous interrupted his thoughts. My lord, the slumbering threat has awoken. Reinhard halted mid-step, a faint smile curving his lips. Interesting, he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Milum, noticing her brother's pause, stopped and looked up at him curiously. Brother, what's wrong? Reinhard looked down at her, his smile softening just a fraction. Milum, it seems I have some urgent business to attend to. I might be gone for a week or two. Milum's face fell slightly, but she nodded. Okay, brother, I'll be good, I promise. Reinhard placed a hand on her head, ruffling her hair affectionately. I know you will, but remember, even though Belgaea is watching over you, don't get into too much trouble. Milum grinned, her earlier disappointment forgotten. I'll be fine, brother. You know me. With a final nod, Reinhard turned his attention to another matter. He raised his hand, summoning a small, shimmering communication orb. A moment later, Romulus's voice echoed through it, cheerful and curious. Reinhard, what's up? Romulus, Reinhard began, his tone calm and authoritative. I need you to watch over Milum for a while. I'm going to be absent for some time. Romulus's voice grew serious. Quote. Sure thing. I'll take good care of her. You can count on me. Reinhard nodded, though Romulus couldn't see it. Thank you. Make sure she stays out of trouble. Romulus laughed lightly. I'll do my best. You just take care of whatever you need to. With that, Reinhard dismissed the orb, the light fading as it disappeared. He turned back to Milum, who was watching him with wide, trusting eyes. Be safe, Milum, he said softly. You too, brother, she replied, her voice firm. Reinhard gave her one last look before he vanished, leaving Milum in the care of Romulus and Belgaea. The golden domain of Gladsheimer awaited his return, but for now, his focus was on the new threat that had emerged, promising another challenge to his unyielding power. Reinhard contemplated his next move. The slumbering threat that Luminous had mentioned intrigued him. He finished thinking and contacted Luminous directly. Luminous, Reinhard's voice was commanding and calm, await my arrival with your army. Prepare for my orders. Luminous, the insectar king, responded with unwavering loyalty. Yes, my lord, we will be ready. Reinhard ended the call, reflecting briefly on how he had shaped the destiny of Luminous and his race. Naming them, guiding them, it was almost as if he were their deity. With a thought, he teleported to the world of cryptids. Upon his arrival, he was greeted by the sight of Luminous's vast army, all of them on one knee, including their formidable king. Their respect was palpable, a testament to the reverence they held for him. The reason why Luminous has already amassed a large army is because of the time difference between here and Cardinal World. For Reinhard, it might just be a few months or so, but for them, a whole century has already passed. Stand, Reinhard ordered, his voice echoing with authority. The army rose as one, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of awe and devotion. Reinhard's gaze shifted to the horizon where the source of the disturbance lay. A massive dragon, its scales shimmering with destructive energy, rampaged across the land. Ivorah, the dragon of destruction, a being even his father, Veldanava, acknowledged. A rare, cold smile spread across Reinhard's face as he began to walk towards the chaos. He murmured, almost to himself, in this world, the measure of one's worth is found in the ability to both love and destroy. True love is the desire to consume, to engulf entirely, leaving nothing but a void. And true destruction is rooted from that beautiful love. His words, reminiscent of his reflections in his past self, rang out over the assembled insectar, a chilling testament to his philosophy. With every step, the ground seemed to bow beneath his presence, a palpable shift in the air as he approached Ivorah. The dragon roared, its destructive aura clashing with Reinhard's own overwhelming power. The ground shook, the sky darkened, but Reinhard remained unfazed, his eyes locked onto the colossal beast. His calm, confident demeanor spoke volumes about the battle that was about to unfold, a clash of titans, with Reinhard's unyielding will poised against the primordial fury of Ivorah. With a final glance at Zelenus and his army, Reinhard's voice carried over the battlefield, "Witness the power of your god, and remember, love and destruction are two but the same side of a coin." Then, without another word, he launched himself towards Ivorah, the air crackling with the force of his movement, ready to face the dragon and prove once again why he was feared and revered by all. Meanwhile, in the cardinal world, 2 days had passed since Reinhard had left. The time difference between planets meant that while he was only beginning his confrontation with Ivorah, life continued to move forward in the cardinal world. Milum, always energetic and curious, had spent these days exploring new territories with her pet, Velgaia. Today, she found herself in the heart of an elven kingdom, a place renowned for its advanced magic. The kingdom was a marvel of arcane architecture and mystical innovations, with towering spires of enchanted crystal and streets lined with trees that glowed with a gentle, soothing light. Elves moved gracefully about, their robes shimmering with magical glyphs, and the air buzzed with the hum of potent spells. Milum was in awe. Every corner of the kingdom offered something new and fascinating. She watched in amazement as an elf conjured a miniature sun to illuminate a dark alleyway and marveled at the sight of a floating market, where vendors sold enchanted items that defied gravity. She even joined a group of elven children in a game that involved weaving strands of pure magic into intricate shapes. For a whole day, Milum let her guard down, her usual vigilance replaced by the sheer joy of discovery. Velgaia, ever the loyal companion, trailed beside her, its presence a comforting reminder of her brother even in his absence. As the day drew to a close, the sky above the elven kingdom turned a deep shade of indigo, dotted with sparkling stars. Milum and Velgaia made their way to the outskirts of the kingdom, ready to return to Gladsheimer. However, just as they were about to leave, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Milum's senses flared to life, but it was too late. The entire kingdom lit up as an enormous magic circle materialized, its intricate patterns glowing with a menacing light. The circle covered the entire kingdom, its power humming through the air like an ominous chant. A booming, arrogant laugh echoed through the kingdom, sending shivers down Milum's spine. Ah, what a delightful surprise! A true dragon graces our humble abode. The voice was haughty, dripping with malicious glee. Milum looked around, trying to pinpoint its source, but it seemed to come from everywhere at once. The speaker revealed himself, stepping out from the shadows of a grand palace. It was the Elven King, his eyes gleaming with greed and ambition. "I've long awaited the chance to capture a creature of such magnificent power," he declared, his gaze fixed on Velgaia. "And now, fate delivers you right to my doorstep." Milum's heart pounded in her chest as she positioned herself protectively in front of Velgaia. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice filled with defiance. The Elven King chuckled darkly. "This magic circle is designed to capture any creature within its bounds. If the binding fails, it will instead destroy the creature, reducing it to nothingness." He spread his arms wide, as if to embrace the entire kingdom. "I intend to make Velgaia my own. A true dragon under my control would make me unstoppable." Milum's eyes widened in horror as she turned to Velgaia, seeing the creature writhe in agony as the magic circle began its assault. Velgaia's scales shimmered with a protective aura, but the power of the circle was overwhelming. Velgaia might be a true dragon, however she is still an infant, and besides she was not born naturally but from Reinhard's whims. She doesn't possess the abundance of magicals that her brother and sisters have. "No," Milum screamed, reaching out for her pet, but the magic circle's power was relentless. She watched, helpless and desperate, as Velgaia's defenses began to falter. The true dragon's roars of pain echoed through the kingdom, a sound that tore at Milum's heart. Within seconds, Velgaia's struggle ceased, though the dragon remained intact, lying unconscious and bound by the magic circle. The Elven King's laughter filled the air once more. "Such a pity. Your pet is resilient, but even it cannot withstand my magic forever." Milum's despair turned into a cold fury. She clenched her fists, her body trembling with a mixture of grief and rage. The Elven King's laughter and the sight of Velgaia's suffering fueled a fire within her. She stood up, her eyes blazing with determination. "You will pay for this," she vowed, her voice low and dangerous. The air around her crackled with latent energy, a testament to the immense power she wielded. The Elven King's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. Brave words, little girl. But you are alone now. What can you possibly do against the might of my magic? Milum took a step forward, her aura expanding with each passing second. The ground beneath her feet cracked, and the air shimmered with her power. She was not just any child, she was Milum Nava, the daughter of the creator and sister of the most evil man in the world. Milum's fury reached a boiling point, her senses overtaken by an all-consuming rage. As her anger surged, the power bestowed upon her by her brother Reinhard, the ultimate skill wrathful King Satanel, awakened with a vengeance. The skill sensed her immense rage and responded by pumping an almost unlimited amount of power into her being. Completely lost to her wrath, Milum's body radiated a terrifying aura. The ground cracked beneath her feet, and the air itself seemed to shudder in fear. With a primal scream, she unleashed her power upon the Elven Kingdom, her eyes blazing with uncontrolled fury. The Elven King Jahil watched in horror as Milum's wrath tore through his kingdom. Buildings crumbled, and the earth split open, swallowing everything in its path. Elven soldiers and civilians alike were caught in the maelstrom of destruction, unable to escape the wrath of the destroyer. Jahil's confident smile had long vanished, replaced by a mask of desperate despair as he realized the full extent of the catastrophe he had unleashed. Milum rampaged through the kingdom, her power obliterating everything in sight. Her senses completely lost, she massacred the population with relentless fury. Within a few hours, she had accumulated hundreds of thousands of souls, their essence feeding the world system and triggering a momentous event. Notice. Individual, Milum Nava, has reached the conditions. Harvest Festival will now begin. Milum's body was enveloped in a blinding light as the Harvest Festival commenced. Her soul burned with longing for her lost pet, Velgaia, and the world system responded to her heart's desire. It attempted to resurrect the true dragon, but the process was imperfect. Velgaia returned, but not as it once was. It emerged as a chaos dragon, a fearsome beast fueled by Milum's rage and grief, its body twisted and dark. The chaos dragon roared, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. It sensed Milum's unspoken command and took to the skies, its massive wings blotting out the sun. It flew toward the kingdom of Serion, where the elven empress Sylvia El-Ru resided. The dragon's mission was clear: to destroy everything related to the elves. As the chaos dragon wreaked havoc on Serion, Milum's evolution reached its climax. The blinding light around her intensified, and her power surged to new heights. When the light finally faded, Milum stood transformed. She had become the second true demon lord, just after Guy Crimson. Despite her transformation, Milum's sanity had not returned. Her urge to destroy continued unabated, her heart still consumed by the grief and rage over Velgaia's suffering. The once peaceful Elven kingdom lay in ruins, and its people were no more. Milum's massacre had turned the land into a desolate wasteland, a testament to the destructive power of the wrathful King Satanel. As Milum's rampage continued unabated, her immense power rippled across the land, catching the attention of Guy Crimson. The displeased demon lord cursed under his breath, wondering where Reinhard was in all of this chaos. He knew Milum was the younger sister of that monstrous Reinhard, but the bastard was nowhere to be seen to stop her. Guy knew that if this devastation kept going, the world would be on the brink of collapse. With a reluctant sigh, he stood from his throne, his crimson eyes narrowing in determination. He took to the skies, flying towards the location of the raging destroyer. Arriving at the scene of destruction, Guy saw the transformed Milum, her eyes blazing with unrestrained fury. He called out to her, trying to bring her back to sanity, but his words fell on deaf ears. With no other choice, he steeled himself for a fight. He needed to beat her into submission, to bring her back to her senses. To his surprise, Milum fought him properly, her attacks precise and powerful. The two clashed with ferocity, each blow shaking the very foundation of the world. Their battle raged on for 7 days and nights, their powers causing untold devastation to the environment. On the third day, the Queen of Spirits, Romulus, arrived, her presence a beacon of hope amid the chaos. Romulus had promised Reinhard she would take care of his sister, and she was determined to keep that promise. She threw herself into the fray, using her abilities to lessen the impact of the colossal battle. She worked tirelessly, consuming the demonic aura that threatened to destroy the environment. Her efforts were the only thing preventing the world from breaking apart under the weight of Milum and Guy's power. Despite her best efforts, Romulus struggled to keep up with the destruction. She pushed herself to her limits, her beautiful frame trembling with exhaustion. Yet she refused to give up. On the last day of the fight, she finally managed to reach Milum's mind, her soothing voice breaking through the haze of rage. Milum, it's me, Romulus. Please, you need to stop. Come back to us, she pleaded, her voice a mixture of desperation and hope. Milum's rampage slowed, her attacks becoming less frenzied. Ramiriz's words pierced through the fog of her rage, and slowly, her sanity began to return. The realization of what she had done hit her like a tidal wave, and she broke down, tears streaming down her face. Ramiris rushed to her side, wrapping her arms around her friend. It's okay, Milum. It's over now. You're safe, she whispered, trying to comfort the sobbing girl. Guy Crimson watched the scene, his expression a mixture of relief and exhaustion. He wiped the sweat from his brow, his body aching from the prolonged fight. Ramiris looked up at him, her eyes blazing with anger. You were too rough on her, Guy. She snapped. Look at her. She was already out of control, and you made it worse. Guy could only shrug, still catching his breath. Believe me, Ramiris, I wasn't holding back. If this had kept going, I might have actually lost. Milum was getting stronger with every passing moment. Ramiris glared at him but didn't argue further. Her priority was Milum, who was finally calming down, her sobs subsiding into quiet whimpers. The once mighty destroyer was now a broken girl in her friend's arms, the weight of her actions pressing down on her heavily. While Milum had finally calmed down, Ramiris was far from composed. The immense effort she had expended to consume the demonic aura had come at a great cost. Her once pure essence as the Queen of Spirits had been irreparably contaminated. She felt the change within herself, a darkness that was now part of her. A voice echoed across the land, the world voice, announcing a new reality. Notice. Individual. Ramiris has been contaminated by demonic aura. Qualification as Queen of Spirits revoked. Commencing transformation. The Harvest Festival will now begin. Individual. Ramiris has evolved into a true demon lord. Guy Crimson's eyes gleamed with satisfaction at this unexpected turn. He approached Ramiris, who was still grappling with the implications of her transformation. This is quite the development, he said, a sly smile on his face. With 3 true demon lords now in existence, I think it's time we established something more formal. How about we call it the Demon Lord Council? Ramiris looked at him, torn between resentment and acceptance. She knew she had no other choice. Her role as the Queen of Spirits was gone, but she could still protect the world in this new capacity. Reluctantly, she nodded. Fine, I'll join your council. But remember, I'm doing this for the world, not for you. Milum, still grappling with her own guilt and the admiration she held for her brother's power, hesitated. She didn't want to be part of anything that reminded her of her rampage, but the guilt of what she had done weighed heavily on her. She remembered Reinhardt's cold, powerful demeanor and how he handled situations without hesitation. With a deep breath, she finally agreed. I'll join. But this doesn't mean I've forgiven myself for what I've done. Guy's smile widened. Excellent. Together, we'll reshape this world in ways no one can imagine. With that, Guy announced the formation of the Demon Lord Council to the world, declaring a new era of power and influence. He then took his leave, heading back to his castle in the north, a sense of satisfaction in his stride. Ramiris and Milum stood amidst the remnants of the Elven Kingdom, their paths forever altered. They had both lost something precious, but in its place, they had gained new identities and new roles. The world would have to reckon with the rise of the Demon Lord Council and the immense power it now held. 16 comments 0 vote. Laplace. Tensura 28. In the world of cryptids, Reinhardt approached Ivorah, the so-called Dragon of Destruction, with a keen interest and a growing sense of excitement. As he closed the distance, his keen eyes and sharp mind began analyzing the creature's every move. Ivorah's sheer size and the raw destructive power it emanated were undeniable, but something crucial was missing. Reinhardt's excitement quickly turned to bitter disappointment as he realized that Ivorah lacked any semblance of intelligence. It was nothing more than a mindless beast, driven purely by primal instincts. How utterly disappointing, Reinhardt muttered to himself, his voice cold and filled with disdain. I had hoped for a worthy opponent, but this is nothing more than a mindless animal. Despite his displeasure, Reinhardt knew he couldn't simply destroy Ivorah. A creature of such raw power had potential, and Reinhardt had always believed in nurturing potential threats into worthy adversaries. Just as he had allowed Fuji-Ren to grow stronger, he would spare Ivorah, in the hope that it might one day provide him with the challenge he craved. The battle that ensued was both breathtaking and devastating. Reinhardt moved with blinding speed, his form a mere blur as he deflected Ivorah's planetara-decaying dragon breaths with ease. Each blast of fiery destruction was met with Reinhardt's cold, calculated deflection, sending the immense energy hurtling harmlessly into the void. Ivorah roared, a sound that shook the very fabric of the world, and lunged at Reinhardt with its colossal claws. Reinhardt, with a smirk of contempt, dodged effortlessly, his movements graceful yet deadly. He struck back with his own attacks, powerful blows that could have obliterated entire civilizations, yet he held back, refusing to end the fight too quickly. You are nothing but a waste of potential, Reinhardt said, his voice echoing with a chilling finality. But I will give you a chance. Grow stronger, become more than this mindless beast, and perhaps one day, you will be worthy of my full attention. Ivorah, though incapable of understanding Reinhardt's words, continued its rampage, each attack more furious than the last. Reinhardt, unimpressed, continued to toy with the creature, his own attacks carefully measured to inflict pain and damage without delivering a killing blow. The clash of titans continued for what seemed like an eternity. Reinhardt's patience was unending, his every move calculated to prolong the fight while assessing Ivorah's capabilities. The dragon's breath attacks, capable of reducing entire planets to ash, were met with Reinhardt's effortless deflections, his form moving faster than the speed of light. Eventually, Reinhardt decided he had seen enough. With a final, devastating blow, he sent Ivorah crashing to the ground, the impact creating a massive crater. The dragon lay there, broken but not dead, its massive form heaving with each labored breath. Reinhardt stood over the fallen creature, his expression one of cold satisfaction. Remember this moment, Ivorah. Remember that you were spared by Reinhardt Nava. Grow stronger, become more than what you are now, and one day, I will return to finish what I started. With that, Reinhardt turned and walked away, leaving the defeated dragon to its fate. He had other matters to attend to, and this creature, while disappointing now, held the promise of a future challenge. For now, it was enough to know that he had left his mark on this world, just as his father Veldanava had done before him. Reinhardt's thoughts turned to the news from Zelenus and the challenges that awaited him. But even as he prepared to face new threats, a part of him looked forward to the day when Ivorah would rise again, stronger and more formidable, ready to provide him with the worthy battle he so desperately craved. Reinhardt returned to the cardinal world, immediately sensing that something was amiss. The air was thick with magicules, so dense and potent that they would likely linger for millennia. This unusual concentration of magical energy was a beacon, guiding him toward the epicenter of the disturbance. As he scanned the landscape, his eyes narrowed slightly in recognition and mild surprise. A single spot was radiating an overwhelming amount of magicules. Reinhardt's curiosity was piqued, but a deeper sense of duty drove him forward. He vanished in an instant, reappearing at the heart of the magical maelstrom. Before him lay a scene of devastation. His sister, Milum, was on her knees, clutching the body of a chaotic dragon. Tears streamed down her face as she held Velgaia, her pet and companion, who was now on the brink of death. Reinhardt's gaze hardened as he took in the sight, feeling no sympathy but rather a cold sense of detachment. Despite the emotional turmoil evident in Milum, Reinhardt felt a surge of satisfaction. The destruction surrounding them spoke volumes of her unleashed power, a testament to her potential that aligned perfectly with his own principles of strength and dominance. Walking towards Milum, he reached out and patted her head, a gesture devoid of warmth or comfort. He offered no words of consolation, knowing they would be meaningless to him and possibly unwelcome to her. His eyes then shifted to Velgaia, the dragon's labored breaths growing weaker with each passing moment. Reinhardt stared coldly at the dragon, his expression unchanging. The sight of the dying creature elicited no compassion from him, only a clinical interest in the aftermath of the chaos. His mind was already calculating the potential uses and implications of this situation, devoid of any emotional involvement. The scene remained charged with a silent tension, a stark contrast between Milum's grief and Reinhardt's unyielding demeanor. In this moment, the gulf between them was as vast as the destruction that lay before them, a testament to the disparate paths they walked even as siblings. Earlier moments. The newly revived Velgaia, now a chaotic dragon of immense power, streaked through the skies with a furious purpose. Her destination, the sorcery kingdom of Serion. As she neared the borders of the kingdom, the air shimmered with anticipation and tension. Velgaia's roar echoed through the mountains, a harbinger of destruction that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Descending upon Serion, Velgaia was ready to unleash her wrath. But before she could begin her decimation, a lone figure stepped forward, unwavering in the face of the impending doom. He walked with a calm yet resolute demeanor, his red hair blazing like fire under the sunlight, his armor gleaming with the emblem of a knight. This was Serion Grimwald, the chosen hero of the era and the current husband of the elven empress Sylvia El-Ru. As Velgaia's massive form landed before him, causing the ground to quake, Serion did not flinch. He drew his sword, its blade shimmering with enchanted light, and spoke with a voice that carried both authority and determination. By the will of the gods and the protection of this land, I, Serion Grimwald, stand before you. This kingdom will not fall to your chaos. As long as I draw breath, you shall not pass. Velgaia's eyes burned with rage, the challenge igniting her fury even more. With a deafening roar, she lunged at Serion, claws outstretched. The fight began with a clash that shook the very air around them. Serion met Velgaya's attack head-on, his sword clashing against her claws with a burst of sparks. The force of the impact pushed him back, but he held his ground, his determination unyielding. Velgaya swiped at him with her tail, but Serion leapt into the air, dodging the blow with agility that belied his armor. As Velgaya reared back to unleash a torrent of destructive breath, Serion moved with precision. He dashed forward, slicing through the air with his sword, aiming for Velgaya's vulnerable underbelly. The blade struck true, eliciting a pained roar from the dragon. Enraged, Velgaya retaliated with a flurry of wing strikes and tail lashes, each blow carrying the force to topple mountains. Serion fought with unwavering focus, his movements a dance of defense and counterattack. He used his sword not just to strike but to deflect and redirect Velgaya's attacks, each motion calculated to minimize damage and exploit openings. The battlefield became a blur of motion, the clash of metal against scales creating a symphony of battle. Despite his heroic efforts, it became clear that Serion was outmatched. Velgaya's rage fueled her strength, her attacks growing more relentless and savage. She summoned fire and lightning, her chaotic breath weapon tearing through the land and sky. Serion responded with magic of his own, casting barriers and enchantments to shield himself and redirect the destructive forces back at Velgaya. The fight raged on, each combatant pushing the other to their limits. Serion's sword flashed like a beacon of hope amidst the chaos, while Velgaya's ferocity seemed to darken the very skies. Their battle scarred the land, leaving behind craters and charred earth. Velgaya's power was overwhelming, and Serion found himself struggling to keep up. His movements, once precise and calculated, began to show signs of weariness. Each deflected blow sent shockwaves through his body, the sheer force of Velgaya's attacks threatening to break his defenses. Still, he pressed on, driven by a sense of duty and an unyielding will. With a final, defiant roar, Velgaya surged forward, her entire body crackling with chaotic energy. Serion met her head-on, his sword glowing with a radiant light. Their clash created an explosion of energy that rippled across the battlefield, a testament to the epic struggle between hero and beast. Despite his best efforts, Serion was pushed to his limits. Velgaya's relentless onslaught left him battered and exhausted, barely able to stand. But even in the face of certain defeat, he remained resolute, his spirit unbroken. As Velgaya prepared to deliver the final blow, a desperate determination filled Serion's eyes. He knew he couldn't win, but he could buy his people time. With a final, desperate surge of strength, he cast a barrier around the kingdom, a last-ditch effort to protect those within from Velgaya's wrath. With the barrier in place, Serion managed to deflect one of Velgaya's devastating breath attacks. The shield shimmered under the immense pressure but held firm, giving the people of Serion a moment of reprieve. However, Serion had underestimated Velgaya's relentless fury. As he caught his breath, another blast of chaotic energy roared from Velgaya's maw, tearing through the barrier and crashing into the outskirts of the kingdom. The explosion was deafening, and screams filled the air as countless lives were snuffed out in an instant. The sight of his people dying, their homes obliterated, ignited a fire within Serion. His body, battered and near its limits, surged with a newfound strength, perhaps born of pure adrenaline and rage. With a roar of his own, he stood tall once more, the pain in his body overridden by his determination to protect what remained of his kingdom. Eyes blazing with fury, Serion faced Velgaya, who was already preparing for another onslaught. Knowing full well that he was outmatched in raw power, Serion formulated a desperate plan. He needed to lure Velgaya away from the kingdom, to minimize further destruction. Even if it meant his own demise, he would ensure that Velgaya's wrath did not consume his people. Drawing upon every ounce of his strength and skill, Serion launched himself at Velgaya. His sword sang through the air as he struck at the dragon's limbs, aiming to wound and provoke. Velgaya roared in irritation and pain, her attention fully captured by the relentless human before her. "Over here, you beast!" Serion shouted, his voice carrying over the chaos. "Your fight is with me." With each attack, Serion moved further from the kingdom, his strikes and parries leading Velgaya away. The dragon, incensed by the audacity of this mortal, followed, her destructive intent focused entirely on Serion. She unleashed blasts of chaotic energy, each one narrowly missing Serion as he deftly dodged and deflected, always moving further from the kingdom's heart. The landscape around them bore the scars of their battle. Trees were reduced to splinters, and the ground was torn asunder by Velgaya's fury. Serion fought with a grim determination, his every move a calculated risk to draw Velgaya's ire. His sword flashed, striking against Velgaya's scales with a desperate strength that belied his exhaustion. Velgaya, enraged and relentless, continued her pursuit. Her breath attacks scorched the earth, but Serion's agile movements kept him just out of reach. His plan was working. The kingdom, though scarred, was spared further immediate devastation. However, Serion's body was nearing its limit. Each movement grew heavier, his breath ragged. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. As Belgaea reared back for another devastating breath attack, Serion saw his chance. Channeling the last of his strength, he lunged forward, striking at Belgaea's throat in a final, desperate attack. The blow landed, not enough to mortally wound the dragon, but sufficient to cause her to recoil in pain and anger. Serion used the moment to create more distance between Belgaea and the kingdom, his vision blurring as fatigue threatened to overwhelm him. He had bought precious time for his people, but at a great cost to himself. As Belgaea recovered, her rage intensified. She would not be deterred by this lone warrior. Serion stood ready, his legs trembling, his grip on his sword unsteady. He was prepared to give his life if it meant saving his kingdom from total annihilation. Thankfully, before Serion could truly fall to his doom, a being of monstrous aura descended onto the battlefield. The sheer presence of this new entity sent shivers down Serion's spine, a palpable indication of power far beyond his own. He didn't know why, but in that moment, Serion understood that his time was up. It was now his turn to watch the next battle unfold, the clash between the pink-haired weeping girl and the roaring chaotic dragon. Serion's legs finally gave out, and he dropped to his knees, all strength leaving his battered body. Despite his fatigue and the pain coursing through him, he chuckled lightly. He had succeeded in his desperate mission, he had managed to protect his kingdom, at least for the moment. There were no regrets in his heart now, only a profound sense of duty fulfilled. But before he allowed himself to succumb to the darkness encroaching on his vision, he made sure to keep his eyes fixed on the battlefield. He believed that what he was about to witness would be the greatest scene of his life. Milum, consumed by her unending rage and grief, faced Belgaea. The chaotic dragon, equally enraged, roared and lunged at her, its once familiar form now a terrifying sight. But despite Belgaea's ferocity, she was no match for the overwhelming power that Milum was unleashing. The strength blessed to Milum by her brother Reinhard, the ultimate skill wrathful King Satanel, pumped nearly unlimited power through her veins, amplifying her abilities to a terrifying extent. The ground trembled under their feet as they clashed. Belgaea's attempts to strike at Milum were met with a growing, unstoppable force. With every blow, Milum's power seemed to increase, her rage fueling her attacks. The sky above them darkened as their battle raged on, each clash sending shockwaves through the land. Serion watched in awe and trepidation as Milum's raw strength began to overpower Belgaea. The dragon, despite its chaotic might, found itself increasingly on the defensive. Milum's eyes burned with an unholy light, her movements becoming faster, more precise, each strike filled with the pain of loss and the wrath of a demon lord in the making. The battle was brutal but brief. Belgaea, once a symbol of chaos and destruction, could do little but suffer under the relentless assault. In a final, desperate attempt, Belgaea unleashed a powerful blast of chaotic energy, hoping to turn the tide. But Milum, with a roar of fury, countered the attack with a surge of power that dwarfed the dragon's own. In a blinding flash, Milum closed the distance between them, her hand glowing with a terrifying energy. With a single, devastating blow, she knocked Belgaea unconscious. The chaotic dragon crumpled to the ground, her rage finally subdued by the overwhelming power of her best friend. Serion, on his knees, could only watch in stunned silence. He had witnessed the rise of a true force of nature, a being of unimaginable power driven by both love and wrath. As the dust settled and the echoes of their battle faded, Serion allowed himself a small, weary smile. He had lived to see the might of Milum, the destroyer, and he had no doubt that this moment would be etched into his memory for eternity. Milum, standing amidst the ruins, her chest heaving with exertion, looked down at the unconscious form of Belgaea. Her rage subsided, replaced by a profound sorrow. She had protected her best friend from total annihilation, but at what cost? The devastation around them was a stark reminder of the price of their power. And as she stood there, tears streaming down her face, she knew that this battle was only the beginning of a long, arduous journey. Serion lay on the battlefield, his strength ebbing away as he reminisced about his life. Memories of his wife Sylvia filled his mind, their shared moments of joy and love, and the dreams they had for their future together. He wondered how she would cope without him, what decisions she would make in his absence. A pang of regret struck him as he thought about their unborn daughter. He longed to see her grow, to be there for her first steps, her first words, to guide her through life's challenges. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. He could only hope that she would grow strong and resilient, just like her mother. As the last vestiges of strength left him, Serion chuckled softly, accepting his fate. But fate was not done with him yet. From the shadows, a figure emerged, an elf with a twisted, grotesque appearance, a result of brutal experimentation. The elf's features were a haunting mix of elegance and deformity, a living testament to the horrors they had endured. The elf approached Serion, each step measured and deliberate. Kneeling beside the dying hero, the elf checked Serion's vitals, their eyes filled with a cold, calculating light. Serion, despite his condition, recognized the elf's twisted visage. This was the former princess of the Elven Kingdom, the same kingdom Milum had obliterated. Through cruel experiments conducted by her own father, she had been transformed, turned into a grotesque mockery of her former self. The elf's voice was a mixture of bitterness and determination. "Do you wish for a second life?" she asked, her hand extending towards him. The offer was laden with dark promise, an escape from death but at an unknown cost. Serion, despite his pain, found the situation almost amusing. Here he was, on the brink of death, being offered a chance to defy it. With a weary laugh, he looked up at the twisted elf. "A second life, huh? Why not? I've got nothing to lose." With that, he accepted her hand, sealing a fate that would lead him down a path he could never have anticipated. Cogli, the former elven princess twisted by experimentation, began to chant the incantations of the forbidden magic known as Death Birthday. The air around her grew thick with dark energy as she called upon the souls of the dead elves from Serion's kingdom. The lifeless bodies that had littered the battlefield began to stir, their residual magic coalescing around Serion. Serion's body, now enveloped in the dark energy, started to transform. His skin paled, his once vibrant eyes dulled, and his very essence was altered. His race shifted from that of a human to a deathman, a being caught between life and death. The process was excruciating, but Serion, now stripped of his memories, felt nothing but a cold, empty rebirth. Cogli watched with tired yet triumphant eyes as the transformation completed. The figure before her was no longer Serion Grimwald, the chosen hero. He was something new, something she had created with her forbidden magic. With a touch, she reached out to the newly reborn being, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "I name you Laplace," she declared, her voice echoing with dark authority. "Rise and serve me." Laplace's eyes flickered with a new, unnatural light as he stood, a blank slate ready to be filled with purpose. His past was a void, his future now in the hands of Cogli. Thus, the figure who would go on to create chaos and upheaval in the world was birthed in that desolate battlefield, under the watchful, tired eyes of the former elven princess. This marked the beginning of a new chapter of strife and conflict, with Laplace at its center. 5 comments 0 vote. Meeting her aunts. Throw some stonies. Reinhard surveyed the scene before him. His sister Milum clung to the chaotic dragon Belgaea, tears streaming down her face. Despite his affection for Milum, Reinhard's mind was preoccupied with the potential havoc she could wreak if left unchecked. "Raphael," he commanded, his voice echoing with authority, "seal Belgaea's current form." Raphael, Reinhard's ultimate skill, responded immediately. A shimmering barrier of intricate runes enveloped Belgaea, gradually sealing the dragon's chaotic essence. As the light faded, Belgaea lay dormant, a peaceful semblance returning to the battlefield. Reinhard knelt beside Milum, placing a reassuring hand on her head. "Don't worry," he said softly. "Belgaea will be healed in time. You must take care of her until then." Milum nodded, her sobs subsiding. With that, Reinhard stood, his gaze shifting to the horizon. "Let's go home," he said. In an instant, they vanished, reappearing in Gladsheimer. Back in his domain, Reinhard took his place on the Grand Throne. The room's ambient magic hummed with energy, reflecting the immense power contained within Gladsheimer. As he settled in, Raphael's voice echoed in his mind. "Master, there is a matter that requires your attention," Raphael began. "Do you recall the event when your aura of fear created something in the void?" Reinhard's interest peaked. "Yes, what of it?" "The creation process has completed," Raphael continued. "A being has emerged. A young man with black hair and an amiable smile. He is a blank slate, without memories or purpose." A cold smile crept across Reinhard's face. "Excellent," he murmured. "One of my plans has come to fruition." He rose from his throne, the vast power of Gladsheimer at his disposal. "Raphael, calculate the coordinates of that certain planet." Raphael complied, and the air crackled with energy as Gladsheimer's power surged. A rift in space and time began to form, shimmering with otherworldly light. The very fabric of reality seemed to tremble under the immense power being channeled. "Prepare to send the newly created being to that planet," Reinhard ordered. He first grabbed the swastika located under the ocean and held it in his hand. "Lock this into its physical body and conform him into a child before dispatching him." The rift stabilized, glowing with a radiant intensity. Reinhard watched with satisfaction as Raphael initiated the final phase. The young man, now transformed into a child, was gently pulled into the rift, destined for a world where he would become an integral part of Reinhard's grand design. As the portal closed, Reinhard leaned back, his cold smile lingering. Gladscheimer's power had once again been demonstrated, setting the stage for future events that would further his ambitions. Reinhard leaned back on his throne, the grandeur of Gladscheimer enveloping him in a sense of unchallenged authority. The hum of immense power resonated through the room, a constant reminder of the strength at his fingertips. His mind wandered to thoughts of this replica of Gladscheimer. He is certain that he will conjure the real one in the future. The question of whether it would need a core to function properly intrigued him. As he pondered this, Raphael's voice cut through the silence, drawing his attention. Master, there's something else you should know. Reinhard raised an eyebrow. What is it now, Raphael? It's about the 3 Einherjar you once commanded. Their core abilities remain active, and you have the option to transfer these abilities to new individuals of your choosing. Reinhard's interest was immediately piqued. The thought of resurrecting the legacy of his formidable Einherjar excited him. He thought deeply about who could be worthy of such immense power and responsibility. 3 names quickly surfaced in his mind, 3 loyal followers who had proven their unwavering allegiance and exceptional prowess time and again. That is quite intriguing, Reinhard mused aloud. I know exactly who should inherit these abilities. He allowed himself a moment to visualize each of them, considering their strengths and how they could serve his grand designs. Yet, he also knew that bestowing these powers was not a task to be taken lightly or done in haste. It required careful planning and precise timing. For now, Reinhard decided to set aside this plan. The time to create new Einherjar would come, but it was not yet. There were other pressing matters and plans unfolding that needed his immediate attention. Reinhard's thoughts lingered on his loyal subjects and the future battles they would face. He knew that with the right people empowered by the legacy of the Einherjar, his reign would be even more unassailable. He relished the anticipation of what was to come, a cold smile playing on his lips as he envisioned the future of his dominion. After a few days of mourning, Milum finally managed to regain her composure. She started clinging to Reinhard more than ever, and he could understand why. She was probably afraid that something similar could happen to him and wanted to protect him. Milum started talking about how she, Ramurus, and Guy created an organization together. Reinhard listened with mild interest. He already knew the other 2 well. Ramurus was a good acquaintance, and he was the one who permitted Guy's existence within the cardinal world. An organization, Reinhard mused, a hint of curiosity in his tone. Milum nodded enthusiastically. Yes, we're calling it the Demon Lord Council. It's our way of maintaining some order. Reinhard nodded, though his interest was more in Milum's well-being than the organization itself. Would you like to meet your uncle and aunts? He asked. Milum's eyes lit up with excitement. Yes, I'd love to. Reinhard could see she was searching for ways to cope with Velgaya's death, and he wanted to support her. Very well, he said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. He then prepared to teleport them both to the cardinal world, leaving Raphael to manage Gladscheimer in their absence. Upon arriving at the familiar landscape of the cardinal world, Reinhard turned to Milum with a mischievous glint in his eyes. How about we make this greeting interesting? Milum's face brightened. That sounds fun. Reinhard smiled lightly and took her hand. Brace yourself for the impact, he warned. Without another word, he effortlessly slung Milum towards the north, where her Aunt Velzard was currently situated along with Guy Crimson. The force of the throw was immense, breaking several sound barriers, and within a mere second, Milum's body crashed into the ice castle, obliterating it upon impact. Shards of ice flew in every direction as the castle crumbled, and the sheer force of her arrival left a massive crater in the center of the frozen structure. Guy Crimson and Velzard, who had been discussing matters of the newly formed organization, were caught off guard by the sudden destruction. Guy's eyes widened in surprise, while Velzard's expression quickly shifted from shock to recognition. Milum, Velzard called out, brushing off the ice and snow that had settled on her. Milum stood up amidst the wreckage, dusting herself off and giggling. That was awesome, she exclaimed, her earlier sadness momentarily forgotten. Reinhard teleported in smoothly beside her, a satisfied smile on his face as he surveyed the scene. I hope the impact wasn't too small, he said, looking at Milum. Guy Crimson crossed his arms, shaking his head with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. You always know how to make an entrance, don't you, Milum? Velzard approached, a fond smile on her lips despite the destruction. It's good to finally see you again, Milum. Though I wish you'd come a little more gently. Reinhard chuckled, placing a hand on Milum's shoulder. Well, consider this a proper greeting, he said. Milum beamed up at him, her spirits visibly lifted. Despite the chaos and destruction that seemed to follow their every move, Reinhard knew that as long as Milum was smiling, everything was as it should be. Despite having only seen Milum once at her birth, Velzard immediately recognized her niece. Velzard had always been deeply fond of her family, especially after the death of her brother, Veldanava. She had sworn to protect all of them. With a gentle smile, Velzard approached Milum. Hello, Milum, Velzard said softly. Do you remember me? Milum, still clinging to Reinhard's clothes, looked up at Velzard with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Aunt Velzard, she asked tentatively. She already heard about the characteristics of her aunts from her brother before. That's right, Velzard replied, her smile widening. It's been a long time. I'm glad to see you again. As their conversation continued, Milum found herself feeling more comfortable around Velzard. The warmth and sincerity in Velzard's demeanor quickly dispelled any initial wariness Milum had. They began talking more freely, and Velzard's gentle presence seemed to ease Milum's lingering sadness. Meanwhile, Guy Crimson ordered Misery, the green primordial who also served as his maid, to brew some tea for their guests. As Misery set about her task, Guy turned to Reinhard with a slightly wry smile. So, what brings you here, Reinhard? Guy asked, trying to gauge the reason behind their visit. I hope recruiting your sister without your permission didn't bother you. Reinhard met Guy's gaze, his expression unreadable. Not at all, he replied smoothly. Milum mentioned your organization, and I thought it might be beneficial for her to meet her family. Guy nodded, relieved. Good to hear. I wouldn't want to cause any tension. You know, with your power, you're practically an unstoppable force, much like Veldanava was. Reinhard's lips curved into a faint smile. It's flattering to be compared to my father, but I'm not here to cause trouble, Guy. Just family matters. Guy couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. Despite his own considerable power and growth since their last encounter, he could sense that Reinhard had also become even more formidable. It was as if Reinhard's strength had no discernible limits, a reality that was both inspiring and intimidating. As Misery returned with a tray of tea, she served the guests with practiced grace. Guy took a cup, his mind still racing with thoughts about Reinhard's unfathomable power. He knew better than to provoke him, but he also recognized the potential benefits of having Milum within their organization. Tea is ready, Misery announced, breaking the tension. Thank you, Misery, Guy said, taking a sip. He looked at Reinhard and Milum, who were now comfortably chatting with Velzard. For peace, he toasted, raising his cup. Reinhard nodded, lifting his cup in response. For destruction. As they sat together, the atmosphere gradually became more relaxed. Reinhard kept a watchful eye on Milum, but seeing her smile and engage with Velzard brought him a sense of satisfaction. Despite the turmoil and chaos that often surrounded their lives, moments like these reminded him of the importance of family and the bonds that held them together. For now, they could enjoy this rare moment of peace, even if it was just a brief respite before the next storm. As Velzard and Milum continued their conversation, Reinhard decided it was time for Milum to meet the rest of her family. With a simple thought, he called upon the other two true dragons, Velgrind and Veldora. He knew they would be interested in meeting their niece, whom Reinhard had kept hidden for so long. Within seconds of receiving the call, two immense dragons appeared in the sky, their majestic forms casting long shadows over the land. They descended swiftly, their powerful wings stirring up gusts of wind as they landed. Velgrind, with her fiery red scales, and Veldora, with his stormy black ones, both looked towards Reinhard and nodded their heads slightly. It was a gesture of respect, though Reinhard could sense their reluctance, especially from Velgrind. Despite her reluctance, she still respected his authority. Transforming into their humanoid forms, Velgrind and Veldora approached the group. Velgrind, with her striking blue hair and regal presence, and Veldora, with his wild, untamed look, both exuded an aura of immense power. Velzard, Milum, Reinhard greeted them. I'd like you to meet Velgrind and Veldora. Velgrind was the first to speak, her eyes softening as she looked at Milum. Hello, Milum. I'm Velgrind, your aunt. I've heard so much about you. Milum, now holding Velzard's clothes, looked up at Velgrind with wide eyes. Aunt Velgrind. Velgrind nodded, a warm smile spreading across her face. Yes, that's right. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Veldora stepped forward next, his demeanor a mix of excitement and curiosity. And I'm Veldora, your uncle. I've been waiting to meet you for a long time, Milum. Milum's eyes widened even more. Uncle Veldora, that's me, Veldora said with a grin. I hope you're ready for some fun. The two dragons joined the conversation, each expressing their love for their new niece in their own unique ways. Velzard's love was strict. She wanted the best for her family and often used force to ensure they stayed on the right path. Milum, you must always strive to be the best, she said sternly, though there was a glimmer of pride in her eyes. Velgrind, on the other hand, had a spoiling love. She just wanted to shower her family with affection. Milum, if you ever need anything, just come to me. I'll always be here for you, she said, her tone gentle and reassuring. Veldora, ever the odd one out, didn't have a specific way of showing his love. He believed in understanding each other through combat. Milum, if you ever want to spar, just let me know. It's the best way to get to know each other, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. As the family gathered, the atmosphere lightened. Milum, initially shy and withdrawn, began to open up more, comforted by the presence of her aunts and uncle. Reinhard watched with a faint smile, pleased to see Milum surrounded by family. For now, they were together, and that was what mattered. Despite the chaos that often surrounded their lives, moments like these reminded them of the strength of their bonds and the importance of family. Guy Crimson leaned back in his chair, observing Reinhard carefully. I've been thinking about the Demon Lord Council, he began, swirling his tea thoughtfully. I'd like to extend an invitation to you, Reinhard. Reinhard didn't even blink before responding. No. Guy sighed, not surprised but a little disappointed. I figured as much. You are the law itself. Titles mean nothing to you. Reinhard nodded slightly, his eyes cool and detached. Correct. Guy leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Then perhaps you can offer some advice. Who do you think should be part of the council? You've traveled extensively and must have met many powerful beings. Reinhard pondered this for a moment, his mind sorting through countless encounters and battles. Dagruel, he said finally. He's an offshoot of Ashura, separated into 3 fragments long ago. His strength and presence would be invaluable. Guy nodded, considering this. And, the current masterpiece of Twilight Valentine, Reinhard continued. I've never met her, but I'm aware of her capabilities. Guy took a mental note of these recommendations. Dagruel and masterpiece of Twilight Valentine, huh. Interesting choices. I'll keep them in mind. Perhaps Milum could handle the introductions, she seems quite curious about the world. Milum perked up at this, her eyes shining with excitement. I can do that. Reinhard watched his sister, a faint smile playing on his lips. Guy raised his teacup, but before he could take a sip, Reinhard stopped him. That tea is far too simple, he declared, waving his hand dismissively. In an instant, a goblet of shimmering, golden liquid appeared before each of them. This is a 3,000-year-old wine, fermented from the void itself, Reinhard said, lifting his goblet. A proper drink, not some horse piss. Guy hesitated for a moment before taking a cautious sip. The flavor exploded in his mouth, a perfect blend of richness and complexity. The aroma was intoxicating, a heady mix of otherworldly scents. He blinked, momentarily overwhelmed. This is incredible, he admitted, unable to hide his admiration. Reinhard took a sip of his own goblet, nodding in satisfaction. Proper drinks for proper conversations. The atmosphere around the table lightened as they enjoyed the exquisite wine. Velzard, Velgrind, and Veldora joined in, each taking a goblet and savoring the rare treat. Milum, still clinging to Reinhard, looked up at him with a smile. She was beginning to see a different side of her brother, one that was more than just power and authority. As they continued to drink and talk, Guy's thoughts wandered to the future. The Demon Lord Council was just the beginning. With Reinhard's advice and Milum's enthusiasm, they would gather the strongest beings and create a force to be reckoned with. But for now, they would enjoy this moment of peace and camaraderie, a rare respite in their tumultuous lives. Reinhard returned to Gladsheimer, leaving Milum behind with her newfound sense of freedom. He knew that her exploration of the world would not only help her grow but also give her a way to cope with her recent losses. Meanwhile, Reinhard had his own plans to focus on, plans that required meticulous attention and preparation. With at least 2 millennia before the significant events he foresaw, Reinhard was determined to perfect every aspect of his strategy. Seated on his throne, Reinhard initiated a conversation with his ultimate skill, Raphael. Raphael, report on the progress of the project, he commanded. Notice. The plan has been properly calculated. Permission to proceed, Raphael responded in its usual monotone. A cold smile played on Reinhard's lips. Permission granted. Reinhard began by reaching deep into the Jura forest, where he had hidden a powerful artifact, the swastika. This artifact was a crucial part of his plan. With a wave of his hand, he summoned it to Gladsheimer, feeling the immense energy it contained. Raphael, lock the swastika within the chip soul, he ordered. The ultimate skill complied, encapsulating the artifact within the fragment of Reinhard's soul. Notice. The swastika has been successfully integrated into the soul fragment. Good, Reinhard said, satisfaction evident in his voice. Now, send the soul to the same location as the previous being created from my aura. The air around Reinhard shimmered as Raphael executed the command. The soul, now carrying the potent swastika, was dispatched through the vastness of space and time to the certain place Reinhard had designated. This should be a good enough seed for my plan, Reinhard mused, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. I've already planted it. Now, I just need to wait. With that task complete, Reinhard turned his attention to another critical matter, his physical body. To achieve the emanation of law, he needed to discard his current form, but it wasn't just any body, it was the vessel that held the hundreds of millions of souls he had reaped over time. He spent the entire afternoon contemplating the best course of action. The body had to be preserved and placed somewhere secure, yet accessible when needed. The weight of its importance was not lost on him, and every detail had to be perfect. As he pondered, his mind wandered through the possibilities. Each scenario was carefully considered, weighed, and measured against his overarching plan. Reinhard's focus was absolute, his thoughts a whirlwind of strategy and foresight. The world outside Gladsheimer moved on, oblivious to the machinations of the being within. Reinhard leaned back on his throne, the weight of his plans pressing on his mind. He knew that the path ahead was long and fraught with challenges, but he was ready. Every piece was falling into place, and soon, his vision for the future would become a reality. As the afternoon turned into evening, Reinhard's determination only grew stronger. He had set his plans in motion, and now it was only a matter of time before they bore fruit. The world might not know it yet, but the wheels of destiny were turning, guided by his unyielding hand. 8 comments 0 vote. Luminous Valentine has fallen. Throw some stones. Next chapter will be Walpergus. Reinhard reached a decision to visit a certain someone. Gazing down at the cardinal world from his domain, he searched for the designated location. His eyes finally landed on a large town filled with beautiful white structures, and he stopped. That was exactly where he needed to go. Rising from his throne, Reinhard descended from Gladsheimer to the cardinal world. In the town known as Night Rose, the masterpiece of Twilight Valentine, Luminous Valentine, was just waking from her slumber. Her beloved town was a sight to behold, a testament to her power and grace. However, her peaceful rest was interrupted by her subordinate, a vampire named Valentine, who hastily woke her with news of an emergency. Despite the urgency in Valentine's voice, Luminous needed no explanation. She had already sensed the cause. Gazing skyward, she saw the descent of an AWE-inspiring figure. The man descending from the heavens was beyond beautiful, his presence radiating an almost divine light. His body was coated in a golden aura, enhancing his already stunning appearance. For the first time in her life, Luminous felt a deep sense of admiration. She paused her usual regal demeanor and prepared to receive this exalted guest. There was no mistaking it, this was Reinhard, the law himself, descending upon her town. As Reinhard approached, the townsfolk of Night Rose stopped in their tracks, mesmerized by the sight. The air seemed to shimmer around him, a testament to his otherworldly power. Luminous rose from her throne, her gaze never leaving the descending figure. When Reinhard finally landed, the ground beneath him seemed to hum with energy. His presence was overwhelming, and even the air felt charged with his immense power. Luminous stepped forward, her usual regal confidence mixed with genuine awe. "Welcome to Night Rose, Reinhard," she greeted, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "It is an honor to have you here." Reinhard's eyes, cold and calculating, met hers. There was a brief moment of silence, a palpable tension in the air. Then he spoke, his voice as commanding as it was serene. "Thank you for your hospitality, Luminous Valentine. I have come to discuss matters of great importance." Luminous nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. What could have brought Reinhard to her town? What could he possibly want from her? She gestured for him to follow her inside the grand hall, eager to hear what he had to say. Reinhard and Luminous walked side by side, a gesture that signified equal standing in their meeting. Despite his immense power, Reinhard accepted this arrangement, respecting Luminous and her domain. However, one particular vampire was not pleased with this display of equality. Valentine, one of Twilight Valentine's creations, was deemed a failure due to his attitude. He was easily angered and had a tendency to oppress others. Seeing Reinhard walking beside Luminous, Valentine's fury bubbled over. He stepped between them, his gaze cold and filled with disdain. He looked down on Reinhard, a man far out of his league, and began to insult him. "You are not worthy to even speak, let alone walk beside our queen," Valentine sneered. "Why do you bother getting close to her? Reinhard smiled in amusement, finding Valentine's arrogance laughable. Without a word, he patted Valentine on the shoulder. The pressure of his touch forced Valentine to his knees, the immense power behind it undeniable. It was only then that Valentine realized the grave mistake he had made. Reinhard's smile remained as he leaned down slightly, his voice calm but laced with an undercurrent of authority. You should learn your place, he said. Worms has really learned how to blab. Valentine's eyes widened in fear, his body trembling under the weight of Reinhard's power. The realization of his insignificance washed over him, and he understood how foolish he had been to challenge someone like Reinhard. Luminous watched the exchange, her eyes narrowing slightly at Valentine's behavior. She knew Valentine's tendencies, but this was an embarrassment. She nodded to Reinhard in appreciation for handling the situation so swiftly. Valentine, she said, her voice stern, you will apologize and remember your place. With difficulty, Valentine managed to stammer out an apology. To apologize, my queen. And to you, Lord Reinhard. Reinhard straightened, his amusement fading as he looked back at Luminous. Shall we continue? He asked, his tone now purely businesslike. Luminous nodded, leading the way once more. The tension that Valentine had created dissipated, leaving only the anticipation of the important discussion ahead. As they entered the grand hall, the door closed behind them, sealing the world out and the secrets they were about to share within. Luminous dismissed Valentine with a sharp look, calling instead for Gunther, her old butler. Gunther, please serve us some delicacies, she ordered. Gunther bowed and swiftly moved to fulfill her request, leaving the room in a moment of hushed elegance. Reinhard and Luminous took their seats, an air of formality and anticipation hanging between them. Luminous broke the silence first, her voice composed. So, Reinhard, what brings you to my domain? What is your agenda here? Reinhard leaned back slightly, his gaze steady. I came to see the said masterpiece that Twilight bragged about, he replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. Luminous felt a twinge of awkwardness. Despite her immense pride, she couldn't help but feel overshadowed by the almost perfect being before her. Reinhard possessed everything she admired, and there was little she could boast about in his presence. The room fell silent for a moment, the awkwardness palpable. Sensing this, Reinhard smoothly transitioned to the next topic. I have a task I wish to assign to you, he said, his tone more businesslike. Luminous straightened, her usual haughty attitude replaced by genuine interest. I'm listening, she said, her eyes fixed on him. Reinhard paused, considering his words carefully. Firstly, what do you think of my physical body? He asked, his gaze intense. Luminous didn't hesitate. It is the most majestic and beautiful thing I have ever witnessed, she said sincerely. Reinhard nodded, satisfied with her answer. The conversation shifted, the weight of his request lingering in the air as Gunther returned with a tray of delicacies. Reinhard took a delicate bite of the offered treat and paused, his expression thoughtful. It lacks flavor, he commented, setting the delicacy back on the tray. Luminous felt a jolt of shock ripple through her. Her confidence in their culinary skills was immense, having compared their offerings favorably against those of other races. However, unknown to her, Reinhard's palate had been refined by experiences in the 20th century, where he had tasted more sophisticated and delicious delicacies. Reinhard stood from his seat, moving closer to Luminous with a measured grace. He gently lifted her chin, his smile both charming and predatory. How would you like to taste it? He murmured, his voice low and enticing. Luminous felt a primal instinct ignite within her, an overwhelming surge of emotion that threatened to drown her. Just as she was about to lose herself, Reinhard stepped back, his expression shifting to one of mild amusement. I worded that wrong, he said, his tone more casual. Luminous looked away, a flush of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. When she gathered the courage to look at Reinhard again, she saw a small, knowing smile on his face. It became clear to her that he had planned this reaction all along, playing with her emotions as easily as he might toy with a piece of fine porcelain. The realization sent another wave of complex feelings through Luminous, a mix of irritation and fascination. She couldn't deny that Reinhard's presence was compelling, his every action calculated yet effortlessly graceful. Despite her pride, she found herself drawn deeper into the enigmatic aura he exuded. Luminous took a deep breath, steeling herself. Knowing that she would ultimately accept any demand from Reinhard, she decided to steer the conversation in a different direction. What do I gain from following your words? She asked, attempting to maintain a calm and composed demeanor, though inside she felt a tumultuous mix of emotions. Reinhard paused, seemingly pondering her question. Power, women, authority, influence, whatever you desire. I shall hand it to you, he responded, his voice steady and unyielding. The sheer magnitude of his offer left Luminous momentarily stunned. Each option held immense weight, and she knew that her choice would inevitably shape Reinhardt's opinion of her. She wasn't sure why his impression of her mattered so much, but it did. Just as the pressure of the decision began to overwhelm her, her loyal butler, Gunther, stepped forward. Your Majesty, Gunther began, bowing deeply to Reinhardt, I apologize for any impertinence. Might I suggest an alternative? Perhaps Lord Reinhardt could owe Her Majesty a favor. She has not yet had time to consider her desires. Luminous felt a wave of relief wash over her at Gunther's intervention. His suggestion provided a way out of the immediate dilemma. She glanced at Reinhardt, who still wore that infuriatingly knowing smile. She quickly looked away, feeling a flush of embarrassment. Reinhardt's smile broadened slightly. A favor, you say? He mused. Very well. I shall owe you a favor, Luminous Valentine. Luminous felt a mixture of relief and triumph. The favor was undoubtedly the biggest prize here, and now it was hers. She couldn't help but wonder what she might ask of him in the future, but for now, she was content with the outcome. Now that the deal was done, Reinhardt finally revealed the purpose of his visit. He leaned back in his seat, his eyes steady on Luminous. There is something I need you to do for me, he began. In a few years, perhaps centuries or millennials, I will ascend to a higher state. With that ascension, my body will remain in the physical world, and I need you to take care of it. Luminous blinked, taken aback. The task sounded more like a reward than an assignment. The idea of being entrusted with something so significant thrilled her, though she fought to keep her emotions in check. She composed herself quickly, masking her excitement with a look of contemplation. Why not simply destroy your body? She asked, despite an inner voice screaming in protest. The mere thought of his perfect form being destroyed filled her with dread, but she needed to understand his reasoning. Reinhardt chuckled, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the room. There is no creature in this world that can harm my body, he said confidently. Besides, if it were to break, then so shall the whole world. Luminous processed his words, realizing the magnitude of what he was saying. His body wasn't just a vessel, it was a humongous bomb. She shuddered slightly at the thought of the cataclysmic consequences if anything were to happen to it. But why me? She asked, her voice softer, genuinely curious. Why entrust something so important to me? Reinhardt's gaze softened slightly, a hint of respect in his eyes. You are the masterpiece of Twilight Valentine. You possess strength, wisdom, and the dedication needed for such a task. More importantly, I trust you to guard it with the seriousness it demands. Luminous felt a swell of pride at his words. It wasn't often that she received such high praise, especially from someone like Reinhardt. She bowed her head slightly in acknowledgement. I understand. I will guard your body with my life. Reinhardt nodded approvingly. I have no doubt that you will. As they continued their conversation, the atmosphere in the room shifted from formal to more relaxed. They discussed the logistics of the task, with Reinhardt explaining that his body would need to be kept in a place of absolute security, where no one could find or tamper with it. Luminous suggested several possible locations within her domain, and they debated the merits of each one. Throughout the discussion, Gunther quietly refilled their drinks and served more delicate pastries, his presence a steady background to their exchange. Luminous found herself increasingly fascinated by Reinhardt's depth of knowledge and his calm, authoritative manner. He seemed to possess an understanding of the world that far surpassed her own. Eventually, their conversation drifted to more personal topics. Reinhardt shared some of his experiences from the 20th century, recounting stories of battles fought and victories won. Luminous listened intently, absorbing every detail. In return, she spoke of her own history, her creation, and the challenges she had faced in establishing her rule. By the time they finished, the initial tension had long dissipated. Luminous felt a newfound respect for Reinhardt, and perhaps even a sense of camaraderie. As he prepared to leave, she stood and bowed deeply, a gesture of genuine respect. Thank you for entrusting me with this task, she said. I will not disappoint you. Reinhardt smiled slightly, inclining his head. I know you won't, Luminous. Until we meet again. With that, he turned and departed, leaving Luminous to reflect on the meeting. She watched him go, a myriad of thoughts swirling in her mind. She had a task of immense importance ahead of her, and she was determined to prove herself worthy of the trust he had placed in her. After Reinhardt's departure, the room seemed to exhale with a quiet stillness. Luminous, still processing the significance of the meeting, took a moment to compose herself. She then turned to Gunther, her trusted butler, and gave a quiet command. Gunther, summon Valentine. Gunther nodded and swiftly left the room. Luminous sat back on her throne, her mind turning over Valentine's earlier actions. She was grateful that Reinhardt's opinion of her hadn't been tarnished, but Valentine's behavior could not go unpunished. A suitable retribution was necessary to maintain order and respect. It wasn't long before Valentine appeared in the throne room, his head bowed, his posture tense. He immediately dropped to his knees before Luminous, his voice trembling slightly as he began to speak. My queen, I only sought to protect you from those who might harm you. It is my duty to keep away any bugs that threaten your grace. Luminous's eyes narrowed at the word, bugs. The audacity of Valentine to refer to someone of Reinhardt's stature in such a manner was infuriating. Her displeasure was palpable, and the room seemed to grow colder in response to her rising anger. Valentine, she said, her voice icy. Do you have any idea of the magnitude of your transgression? You dared to insult an entity far beyond your comprehension. Reinhardt is no mere bug. He is an existence that holds the balance of our world. Your insolence is an embarrassment to my name. Valentine flinched at her words, clearly understanding the gravity of his mistake. My queen, I only wished to protect you. Silence, Luminous commanded, her voice sharp. Your misguided loyalty has brought shame upon me. You must be punished, not only for your disrespect but to serve as a reminder to others of the consequences of such insolence. Valentine trembled, knowing his fate was sealed. Luminous rose from her throne, her presence commanding and regal. She extended her hand, and a surge of her immense power filled the room. Valentine's eyes widened in fear as he felt her magic envelop him. Luminous Valentine, she intoned, Queen of Nightmares, shall now purge the arrogance and folly from you. You shall be divided, and through this division, your essence shall be purified. With a swift, decisive motion, Luminous used her power to split Valentine into two separate beings. The process was excruciatingly painful, and Valentine's screams echoed through the chamber. The magic tore through his essence, separating the parts of him that were rebellious and insubordinate from those capable of loyalty and service. When the transformation was complete, two figures lay on the floor before her. One, the original Valentine, now a husk of his former self, devoid of the defiance that had once defined him. The other, a new being, knelt with eyes filled with unwavering loyalty and a newfound sense of purpose. Luminous looked down at the two beings, her expression stern but satisfied. She had accomplished what she intended. The rebellious nature of Valentine had been expunged, replaced by a creature wholly dedicated to her service. Rise, she commanded the new being. From this moment forth, you shall serve me with unwavering devotion. You shall be an example of true loyalty. The new Valentine, now a figure of absolute fealty, stood and bowed deeply. Yes, my queen, we live only to serve you. Luminous turned to Gunther, who had watched the entire process with silent approval. Ensure that both of them are properly accommodated. The new Valentine shall take on the responsibilities of the old, but with a renewed sense of duty. Gunther nodded. As you command, my queen. With that, Luminous returned to her throne, feeling a sense of order restored. The disruption caused by Valentine's insolence had been dealt with, and she could now focus on the monumental task ahead. She had promised to protect Reinhardt's physical body during his ascension, and she intended to fulfill that promise with the utmost diligence. As she sat back, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. Reinhardt's visit had been unexpected, but it had brought a new purpose to her existence. She felt a renewed sense of determination to prove herself worthy of the trust he had placed in her. The task ahead was immense, but she welcomed the challenge. With the lessons of the day firmly in mind, Luminous Valentine prepared to embark on her new mission, her resolve stronger than ever. Reinhardt returned to Gladsheimer, the divine aura of his domain surrounding him like a protective cloak. The vast expanse of his palace shimmered with otherworldly light, reflecting the grandeur of his power. He walked with deliberate steps to his throne, his mind still on the meeting with Luminous. Sitting down, he let out a small sigh, feeling the weight of his responsibilities settling over him. Just as he was about to close his eyes for a much-needed rest, Raphael's voice echoed in his mind. Master, there is an urgent matter that requires your attention. Reinhardt's eyes opened, a hint of curiosity sparking within them. What is it, Raphael? Notice. The aura you left in the void is on a trajectory to reach the cardinal world within 2 millennia. This will create a perfect opportunity for your planned entrance during that period. Reinhardt nodded, finding the timing satisfactory. 2 millennia was ample time to prepare for his ascension and ensure his plans came to fruition. Good. That aligns well with our timeline. Anything else? Raphael continued, there is another development. The residual aura left in the void is coalescing, forming a new being. This entity appears to be the second of your kind, a spectral, similar to your own race. The revelation intrigued Reinhardt deeply. A descendant born from his leftover aura was an unexpected but fascinating occurrence. A new spectral, you say? How far along is its formation? The process is gradual but steady. It will take time, but the being is developing a stable form and consciousness. Your presence may expedite the process. Reinhardt's interest was piqued. The thought of witnessing the birth of a new spectral was too compelling to ignore. He stood from his throne, the decision made. I will go to the void. Show me where it is forming. With a surge of his immense power, Reinhardt teleported from Gladsheimer to the void, the place where he had first been born. The void was a realm of infinite nothingness, where time and space twisted into an eternal expanse of darkness and light. It was here that his aura lingered, a remnant of his own creation, now giving birth to something new. Arriving at the designated location, Reinhardt felt the familiar, raw energy of the void. He observed the swirling mass of his aura, a concentrated vortex of power. It was a sight both chaotic and beautiful, the beginnings of life forming from the remnants of his essence. He approached the vortex, his presence stabilizing the chaotic energy. As he drew closer, the mass of aura began to take shape, responding to his will and command. It slowly coalesced into a humanoid form, ethereal and translucent, yet brimming with potential. Reinhardt watched intently as the being's features became more defined. It had a similar spectral quality to his own form, but with unique characteristics that distinguished it as its own entity. The process was mesmerizing, a testament to the profound connection between creator and creation. The new spectral began to show signs of consciousness, its eyes opening to reveal a spark of awareness. Reinhardt extended a hand, touching the being's forehead gently. Welcome to existence, my kin. 9 comments 0 vote. Walpergus knocked. Initially wanted to do something like reaching 100 PS plus 2 chapters or something, but now that I think about it, it is a worthless idea. I mean, I post chapters for fun, so no need to put unnecessary expectations. Anyway, enjoy. Throw some stones. Reinhardt observed the being with keen interest, noting her distinctive appearance. She had light blue hair that cascaded around her, contrasting sharply with the leg and arm restraints that adorned her form. Her large horns seemed to symbolize the strength and stability of the land, while her eyes reflected the depths of the inner sea of a planet, glistening with an enigmatic allure. The sight was both mesmerizing and perplexing, a unique manifestation of his aura. Despite her intriguing appearance, Reinhardt felt a sense of detachment. He had no immediate need for her in his current plans. His visit here had been driven by curiosity, and now that it was satisfied, he was ready to move on. The woman, though remarkable, was not essential to his immediate objectives. Arriving at a decision, Reinhardt's expression turned cold. He approached the woman, who looked at him with innocent, unresisting eyes. Her gaze was unwavering, filled with a sense of awe and trust. Reinhardt smiled, but it was a smile devoid of warmth. You have potential, he said, his voice carrying a commanding tone. But for now, your purpose lies elsewhere. With a swift motion, he conjured his spear, its presence tearing a rift in the fabric of existence. The void around them responded to his will, creating a portal that led to another plane. Reinhardt placed a hand on her shoulder, the force of his touch sending a shiver through her form. Without another word, he pushed her towards the portal. The woman tumbled through the rift, her body spinning in the void. She offered no resistance, her eyes remaining fixed on Reinhardt, filled with a mixture of curiosity and trust. As she vanished into the portal, Reinhardt's voice followed her, resonating through the ether. Be useful to me. Plant my essence in other worlds. Live and fulfill your purpose. The portal closed with a finality, sealing the woman's fate. Reinhardt stood alone in the void, his thoughts already shifting to the next phase of his plans. The seed had been planted, and now he only needed to wait and see what fruit it would bear. Returning to Gladsheimer, Reinhardt's expression softened into a smile of anticipation. He was eager to see how the woman would fare in the unknown worlds, and what impact she would have. The future was a tapestry of possibilities, and he was the weaver, guiding the threads towards his ultimate design. Back in his throne room, Reinhardt resumed his seat, feeling a sense of satisfaction. The steps he had taken today were small but significant, each one contributing to the future he envisioned. His mind raced with ideas, plans, and contingencies, each one meticulously crafted to ensure the success of his overarching goal. As he settled back into the comfort of his throne, Reinhardt allowed himself a moment of reflection. The journey ahead was long, but he was prepared for it. With Raphael by his side, and the pieces falling into place, he felt an unshakable confidence in his path. The cosmos awaited his influence, and he was more than ready to extend his reach. With a final, contemplative gaze into the expanse of his domain, Reinhardt closed his eyes, a serene smile playing on his lips. A few years passed, and the demon lord council that Guy, Milum, and Romuris founded became known to humans and other races. Initially, the reaction was one of resistance and fear. The idea of beings calling themselves demon lords overseeing their world was difficult to accept. However, Guy had a method to enforce acceptance. Each year, Guy would unleash thousands of greater demons upon various communities. The destruction they wrought was terrible, but unbeknownst to many, this was part of Guy's plan to prevent humans and other races from self-destructing through their internal conflicts. The demons acted as a unifying threat, forcing disparate groups to band together for survival. Milum, understanding the necessity of Guy's actions, mobilized many dragons that had come to follow her. The death of Velgaea had a profound impact on the world. From her aura, a new race of dragons had been born. These dragons, which should not have existed alongside the true dragons, now swore fealty to their princess, Milum. She carried out her duties without hesitation, her heart hardened by the loss of Velgaea. Ramurus, on the other hand, refused to participate in the destruction. Even though she had fallen from grace, she remained committed to her role of maintaining the balance of the world. Despite her disagreements with Guy and Milum, she respected their positions and occasionally visited Reinhard with Milum. Yet, she spent most of her time in the cardinal world, keeping a watchful eye on the balance of power. Over time, Milum managed to recruit Dagruel and Luminous to join the council, following orders from Guy. This was no small feat, and her persistence paid off as she brought two formidable beings into their fold. Dagruel, a powerful offshoot of Ashura, and Luminous, the masterpiece of Twilight Valentine, added significant strength to their ranks. With these new members, Guy decided it was time to hold the first official meeting of the Demon Lords. The announcement sent waves of fear throughout the cardinal world. The idea of so many powerful and potentially world-ending beings gathering in one place was terrifying to the populace. Whispers of impending doom spread like wildfire, and anxiety gripped the hearts of many. As the date of the meeting approached, tension hung heavy in the air. People prepared for the worst, not knowing what to expect from this unprecedented gathering. The presence of the Demon Lords symbolized a new era, one that could either bring stability or usher in greater chaos. Milum, ever the lively spirit, tried to reassure those she encountered. Her visits to Reinhard in Gladsheimer became more frequent as she sought his advice and comfort. Reinhard, always the calm and calculating presence, offered her guidance and support, knowing that her role in the council was crucial. Meanwhile, the other demon lords prepared for the meeting in their own ways. Dagruel fortified his stronghold, preparing for the responsibilities that came with his new title. Luminous, balancing her duties in Night Rose, strategized how best to use her newfound influence within the council. As the day of the meeting dawned, the world held its breath. The demon lords, each a force of nature in their own right, converged on the designated location. The atmosphere crackled with energy and anticipation. The future of the world hung in the balance, and the actions taken by these beings would shape the fate of countless lives. In the heart of this tension, Reinhard observed from Gladsheimer, his mind always several steps ahead. He knew the importance of this gathering and the potential it held for both creation and destruction. As always, he was prepared for whatever outcome might unfold, ready to guide the world through the coming trials with an unyielding hand. The meeting was to be held in a vast, open space, a desolate area that had been stripped of life and vegetation by the overwhelming auras of the assembled demon lords. The surrounding land, extending for tens of miles in every direction, bore the scars of their presence. The air was thick with residual energy, a constant reminder of the power these beings wielded. Any creature foolish enough to venture close would be incinerated by the sheer force of their combined auras. The four demon lords, Milum, Ramurus, Dagruel, and Luminous, had already taken their places. Each sat on a throne of their own design, exuding an aura of authority and power. They were waiting for Guy, who had yet to make his entrance. Milum, ever impatient, tapped her fingers on the armrest of her throne, her frustration evident. "Where is that idiot? Always trying to make a grand entrance," she muttered, earning a nod of agreement from Ramurus, who hovered nearby. "He's probably just trying to look cool again," Ramurus added with a sigh. Neither seemed to grasp the strategic intent behind Guy's delay. Unknown to them, Guy was intentionally making them wait, emphasizing his dominance and asserting the gravity of the occasion. He understood that the longer he delayed, the more anticipation and tension would build, both among the demon lords and the watching world. Suddenly, the air grew heavier, charged with a palpable energy. A colossal aura descended upon the meeting site, its force so immense that it triggered earthquakes in the distant settlements. The ground trembled, and the sky seemed to darken as if acknowledging the presence of an unparalleled power. Guy finally appeared, his aura blazing like a dark sun. His presence alone commanded attention and respect. He strode confidently to his seat, his eyes sweeping over his fellow demon lords, gauging their reactions. Milum and Ramurus fell silent, their earlier complaints forgotten in the face of Guy's overwhelming presence. Even Dagruel and Luminous, both formidable in their own right, felt a momentary pause in their thoughts, recognizing the significance of Guy's entrance. Guy took his place and looked out over the desolate expanse, his voice booming with authority and resonating across the land. Walpergus is now starting, he declared, his words carrying the weight of destiny. The world responded in kind. Fear and anticipation gripped the hearts of those who heard the announcement. In distant lands, leaders and common folk alike wondered what decisions would emerge from this gathering of titans. The name, Walpergus, echoed through the minds of many, a harbinger of potential doom or salvation. Among those most wary of this gathering was Rudra, the enigmatic ruler whose long-standing game with Guy was about to escalate. He watched the proceedings with a mixture of concern and determination. The stakes had never been higher, and the game between him and Guy was poised to enter a new phase. Beside Rudra stood Belgrand, her presence a comforting and encouraging force. She smiled at him, her eyes filled with unwavering support. "You can do this," she whispered, her voice filled with confidence. Rudra returned her smile, drawing strength from her words. He knew that the outcome of this meeting would shape the future in profound ways. A heavy silence descended over the meeting area, the oppressive quiet broken only by the occasional rustle of a stray breeze. The tension was palpable, a tangible force that pressed down on all present. This silence was soon dispelled by the appearance of Guy's two maids, Misery and Rain. They stepped forward gracefully, their presence commanding attention as they moved to open the proceedings. Misery, with her calm and composed demeanor, began to speak, her voice clear and authoritative. "Welcome, esteemed demon lords, to the first Walpergus. As tradition dictates, we shall begin with introductions. Each of you will state your name and race, and any title you deem appropriate." Rain, standing beside her, nodded in agreement, her sharp eyes surveying the gathered lords. "We shall start with our host, Lord Guy Crimson." Guy stood, his imposing figure casting a long shadow. His eyes glinted with a mix of amusement and authority as he spoke. "I am Guy Crimson, a demon and the Lord of Darkness." His voice was deep, resonant, and filled with the weight of his power. He sat back down, his presence still dominating the space. Next was Milum, who stood up energetically, her aura crackling with barely contained power. "I am Milum Nava, a dragonoid, and I take the title of Destroyer." Her voice was filled with a fierce pride, reflecting her strength and confidence. Ramirez fluttered her wings nervously as she rose, her small form seeming even smaller in comparison to the others. "I am Ramirez, of the pixie race." She hesitated for a moment before continuing, "I wanted the title of Queen of Spirits." Guy interrupted her with a shake of his head. "That title is too gentle for a demon lord, Ramirez. You need something that reflects your role more accurately." Milum, always quick to offer suggestions, piped up. "How about the Bug Queen?" Ramirez frowned and shook her head. "No, that doesn't fit." After some back-and-forth suggestions, Ramirez finally settled with a sigh. "Fine, I'll take the title of the Labyrinth." Dagruel stood next, his towering figure exuding an aura of immense strength. "I am Dagruel, of the giant race. My title is Insurgent to God." His deep voice echoed with a sense of solemnity and resolve. Finally, Luminous rose from her seat, her regal presence undeniable. "I am Luminous Valentine, of the vampire race, and I bear the title of Queen of Nightmares." Her voice was smooth and commanding, carrying an air of elegance and authority. With the introductions complete, Misery and Rain stepped back, their duties fulfilled. The atmosphere remained tense, but the initial formalities had broken the ice, setting the stage for the discussions to come. Each demon lord had declared their identity and their power, establishing the groundwork for the momentous decisions that would shape the future of their world. Before Rain and Misery could present the agenda, Guy raised a hand, signaling them to halt. His sharp eyes fixed on Dagruel, curiosity evident in his gaze. The other demon lords turned their attention to the exchange, intrigued by Guy's sudden interest. "Dagruel," Guy began, his tone inquisitive yet commanding, "your title, Insurgent to God, where does it come from? Did you ever challenge Veldanava himself to earn such a name?" Dagruel's massive frame seemed to tense at the question. He shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping momentarily before he met Guy's eyes again. "No, I have never fought against Veldanava. My title is complicated." His voice, usually so confident, carried a hint of unease. "In truth, I have no right to call myself an insurgent. Reinhard has not acknowledged my existence, and in our current forms, it is hard to say if we are even worthy of his respect." The awkward silence that followed was palpable. Sensing the tension, Ramirez fluttered her wings and floated to the center, deciding to provide context. "Let me explain," she began, her small voice carrying an unexpected weight. Dagruel, along with his two brothers, was once part of a single entity known as Ashura. Ashura was a force of nature, a mad king of giants who threatened to obliterate the world itself. The gathered lords listened intently, their expressions ranging from curiosity to shock. The primordial angels attempted to subdue Ashura, Romulus continued, but even their combined might was insufficient. His power was absurd, unparalleled. In the end, it was Reinhard who had to intervene. Milum's eyes sparkled with interest, and even Luminous leaned forward slightly, her icy demeanor thawing with intrigue. Guy's expression remained unreadable, but his focus on Romulus was unwavering. The battle was, Romulus hesitated, searching for the right words, one-sided. Reinhard toyed with Ashura, showcasing a power that was beyond comprehension. However, instead of killing him, Reinhard chose to show mercy. Out of respect for Ashura's strength and spirit, he did not end his life. Instead, he divided Ashura into 3 separate beings, one of whom is Dagruel. The other 2 brothers, one of whom remains sealed in the heavens, share this fragmented legacy. Dagruel's face was a mixture of pride and sorrow. The story was a testament to his origin and the complex relationship between his past and present self. The other lords absorbed this revelation, the weight of Reinhard's decision and its impact on Dagruel now clear to them. Guy finally spoke, breaking the silence. I see. That explains much. He nodded, a sign of respect towards Dagruel. You carry a heavy responsibility, Dagruel. Your title is not just a name but a reminder of a formidable past. Dagruel inclined his head slightly in acknowledgement, grateful for the understanding, albeit reluctant to dwell further on his complicated history. Rain and Misery, seeing the moment was right, stepped forward again to resume the agenda. The air of tension had shifted to one of solemn respect, the gravity of the past blending into the purpose of their present meeting. Romulus floated back to her seat, a small smile of satisfaction on her face, having shed light on an important chapter of their shared history. The gathered demon lords, now more informed, were ready to delve into the matters at hand with a deeper understanding of each other's backgrounds and the legacies they carried. As the introductions concluded and the air of solemn respect settled over the gathering, Misery stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. She cleared her throat, ensuring all eyes were on her. Our first agenda, she announced, is the allocation of domains within the world. Each of you will state your desired territories and any reasons for your choices. Guy leaned back in his seat, his sharp eyes gleaming with a hint of amusement. I'll begin, he declared. I claim the northern continent. It suits my nature, and its harsh environment will serve as a fitting challenge for those who dare to approach me. His tone was final, and there was no argument from the others, who nodded in agreement. Milum was next, her energetic demeanor contrasting with the seriousness of the meeting. I'll take the southeast part of the middle continent, she said with a grin. It's a cool location, and I can oversee the new dragon race born from Belgaia's aura. Plus, it's close enough to the gate of Gladsheimer for me to visit when I want. Dagruel, still processing the weight of his past and the respect shown to him, spoke with a grave voice. I will take the barren lands, he stated. The decaying territory where Milum and Guy once clashed. It's a fitting place for me, and I intend to protect the gate of heavens located there. His words carried a sense of duty and purpose, resonating with the others. Luminous, her regal aura undiminished, was next. I shall take the western part of the continent, she declared. The night rose will flourish there, and it will be a suitable home for my people. She glanced at Guy, who gave her a slight nod of approval. Romulus, who had been floating above her seat, shook her head when it was her turn. I refuse any territory, she said firmly. I can migrate anywhere, and I have no people to care for. My labyrinth is enough for me. Her voice was light, but there was a steely resolve in her eyes. Misery nodded, taking note of their decisions. Very well. These domains are now yours to govern and protect. We will move on to the next agenda shortly. As the demon lords settled into their newly claimed territories, the room was filled with a mix of anticipation and determination. Each territory represented not just land but a part of their influence and power in the world. It was a crucial step in solidifying their presence and establishing their dominance. Guy's eyes scanned the group, pleased with the decisions. With our domains established, we can begin to shape the world according to our vision, he said. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. We must ensure that our territories reflect our strength and our commitment to maintaining balance. Milum nodded enthusiastically, while Dagruel remained stoic, his mind likely focused on his new duty to protect the gate of heavens. Luminous appeared thoughtful, already considering the future of her night rose, and Romulus floated nearby, her carefree demeanor masking a deep understanding of the gravity of their situation. Misery stepped back, her role in the meeting momentarily concluded. The demon lords had taken a significant step towards solidifying their power and influence, and the world would soon feel the impact of their decisions. As the meeting continued, the weight of their roles and the responsibilities that came with them became more evident. The allocation of domains was just the beginning. The true challenge lay in governing them wisely and maintaining the delicate balance of power and peace in the world. Each demon lord understood this, and they were prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead. The first meeting of the Demon Lord Council set the stage for a new era, one that would be defined by their actions and decisions. And while the world outside watched with bated breath, the Demon Lords knew that their journey was just beginning. Dash. 0 comments 0 vote. Champion, Ain Harriars. Extra chapter because. No idea, really. Don't forget to throw some stones alright. Dash. As the Demon Lords settled back into their seats, the atmosphere became even more charged with anticipation. Misery stepped forward once more, her eyes sweeping across the assembly. The next agenda, she announced, is our response to the growing large human settlements in the world. Guy leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a dangerous light. This is a matter of great importance, he began, his voice resonating through the air, amplified to reach even the furthest corners of the world. Humans, by their nature, have a tendency to overreach. They expand, they conquer, and they destroy. It is our duty to ensure they do not upset the balance we are striving to maintain. Milum's eyes sparkled with excitement, her usual energy undiminished. So, what's the plan, Guy? She asked eagerly, leaning forward. Do we get to smash some human cities? Guy smiled, a predatory grin that sent shivers down the spines of those watching from afar. Indeed, Milum, I propose that each of us be given the authority to chip away at the power of any large human settlement that shows signs of overreaching. This will serve two purposes. It will remind humans of their place, and it will ensure they do not become a threat to the balance of our world. Dagruel nodded slowly, his massive form exuding a sense of grim determination. Humans have always been a source of conflict and strife. It is wise to keep them in check. I support this plan. Luminous, her regal bearing unshaken, added her voice to the chorus. Humans, with their fleeting lifespans and insatiable ambitions, often forget their limitations. A reminder is indeed necessary. They need to understand the consequences of their actions. Ramirez, who had been floating quietly, now spoke up, her voice carrying a hint of reluctance. I agree, but we must ensure that our actions do not lead to unnecessary suffering. We should target their leaders and their military might, not the innocent lives. Guy gave her a nod of acknowledgement. Your point is valid, Ramirez. Our goal is not to wipe out humanity but to maintain balance. Strategic strikes will be our method, ensuring that the impact is felt where it matters most. Milum grinned, clearly relishing the prospect of action. Well, as long as we get to have some fun while we're at it, I'm in. Humans do tend to get out of control if left unchecked. Luminous leaned forward, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. What of the human kingdoms that show restraint and wisdom? Should we not have a way to reward such behavior, to encourage a more balanced approach? Guy considered this for a moment before nodding. An excellent point, Luminous. We will establish a system of observation and judgment. Those human settlements that demonstrate wisdom and restraint will be left in peace. But those who overreach, those who seek to upset the balance, will face our wrath. Dagruel's deep voice rumbled through the air. And what of those who dare to defy us, who believe they can challenge our authority? Guy's smile was cold and fierce. They will learn the true meaning of despair. Our message will be clear and unmistakable. The demon lords are the ultimate authority in this world. Any who challenge us will be crushed. As the demon lords continued their discussion, the world listened in fear and awe. The balance of power was shifting, and the humans, who had grown accustomed to their own dominion, now faced a new reality. The demon lords, in their infinite power and wisdom, were now the overseers of the world's fate. The meeting was not just a declaration of power, it was a statement of intent. Each demon lord would play their part in shaping the future, ensuring that the world remained in balance, even if it meant wielding their terrible power against those who dared to disrupt it. The heavy silence that followed was filled with the weight of their decisions. Misery stepped back, allowing the gravity of the moment to sink in. The demon lords had spoken, and their will would be enacted across the world. Guy, with a final glance at his fellow demon lords, concluded the discussion. With this plan, we will ensure the stability of our world. We will maintain the balance and remind all beings, human or otherwise, of the power and authority we hold. The era of the demon lords has truly begun. As the meeting neared its conclusion, a palpable tension filled the air. Misery, sensing the gravity of the moment, stepped forward with an air of solemnity. We now move to our last and most important agenda, she announced, her voice echoing ominously. This concerns a name that demands our utmost attention, Reinhard Nava. The very mention of the name silenced the assembly. The demon lords, who had been so fierce and unyielding moments ago, now wore expressions of unease and contemplation. Each one reacted differently to the name. Milum's eyes widened in surprise, Luminous's lips pressed into a thin line, and Romulus' usually carefree demeanor turned serious. Milum was the first to break the silence, her voice tinged with confusion and a hint of defiance. Why are we bringing my brother's name into this discussion? What does he have to do with our plans? Luminous and Romulus also leaned in, their attention fully captured. They respected Reinhard and were visibly perplexed by Guy's intentions. Guy shrugged, a nonchalant smirk playing on his lips. Instead of immediately answering Milum's question, he directed his gaze upward, staring intently at the second moon hanging brightly in the sky. The assembly followed his gaze, realizing he was looking directly at Gladsheimer. A sardonic laugh echoed through the air, causing every demon lord to tense up. The laugh was unmistakably Reinhard's. He had been watching the entire scenario unfold and couldn't help but be amused by Guy's audacity. The man was brave, or perhaps foolish, to address him in such a manner, knowing full well the risk of incurring his wrath. Reinhard's presence was both inspiring and terrifying. He remained in Gladsheimer, however, his aura was overwhelming and divine. Despite the palpable tension, he wore a smile that hinted at his amusement and superiority. Guy, your bravery is commendable, Reinhard began, his voice carrying a weight that silenced any further protests. To bring my name into this council. It's a bold move, indeed. Guy, maintaining his composure, nodded slightly. We acknowledge your power, Reinhard. But it's not just about recognition. It's about understanding your ambition and how it impacts us all. Reinhard chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of those present. Indeed, you are perceptive. My ambition extends beyond this world, and I have plans that will shape the future. Milum, unable to contain her concern, stepped forward. Brother, what are you planning? Why declare war on the world? Reinhard's smile widened. Because this world needs a challenge. It needs to evolve, to strive for something greater. In 1,000 years, I will enter a slumber to prepare for my ascension. During this time, all creatures within the cardinal world must prevent that from happening. This is a test, a way to see who truly deserves to exist in the new world I envision. The declaration sent waves of shock through the assembly. The demon lords, who had considered themselves the pinnacle of power, now faced a challenge that dwarfed any they had encountered before. Luminous, regaining her composure, asked, and what if we fail? What happens if no one can stop you? Reinhard's eyes glinted with a mixture of amusement and menace. Then the world will break, and from its fragments, a new one will be born. One that aligns with my vision of perfection. Guy leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. So, this is not just about power. It's about proving our worth. Exactly, Reinhard replied. You have 1,000 years to prepare. Make the most of it. With that, Reinhard's presence began to fade, his divine voice dissipating into the ether. The demon lords were left in a state of contemplation, the weight of the challenge ahead pressing down on them. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the unspoken understanding of the monumental task before them. Guy finally broke the silence, his voice resolute. We have our work cut out for us. Let this be the beginning of a new era. Walpergus is now coming to an end. As his words echoed across the desolate lands, the world erupted in fear and anticipation. Milum's emotions churned within her. Her brother's declaration was both perplexing and worrisome, yet a part of her believed that Reinhard was simply toying with them. After all, he always had a flair for the dramatic. Surely, he didn't truly intend to destroy the world. She shook her head slightly, trying to dismiss the unease that gnawed at her. As the weight of Reinhard's words settled over the assembly, Guy stood from his seat with a grin that could only be described as predatory. It is declared then, he announced, his voice brimming with a dangerous glee. Reinhard Nava, the most evil man in the world, is now the enemy of the Demon Lord Council. The declaration sent shockwaves through the gathered lords. Romulus and Luminous exchanged uneasy glances, the rapid escalation of events leaving them reeling. Neither had anticipated becoming Reinhard's adversaries after just one meeting. The burden of this sudden enmity weighed heavily on their shoulders, filling them with regret for attending the council. Luminous, in particular, was torn. She had been given a task by Reinhard himself, a responsibility that now seemed at odds with her newfound position. Her mind raced, contemplating whether she should reveal Reinhard's plans to the others. But something held her back. They had time, after all, a millennium before Reinhard's slumber. Perhaps it was best to hold her silence for now. As the implications of Guy's announcement reverberated through the world, fear spread like wildfire. The declaration of war by the Demon Lord Council signaled the dawn of a dangerous era, one fraught with uncertainty and looming threats. Back at the meeting, Guy reveled in the tension he had created. He cast his gaze over his fellow lords, ensuring that the gravity of their new enemy was understood. We will make it known to the world, he continued, his tone filled with menace, that we welcome any creature with the strength and will to stand among us. Let them come forward if they wish to be part of this council. But make no mistake, only the strongest will be allowed. The challenge was clear, a gauntlet thrown down for all to see. Guy's words were a beacon, drawing the attention of powerful beings across the cardinal world. It was a taunt, a dare for those who believed themselves capable to step into the fray and prove their worth. Milum, despite her internal conflict, couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. The prospect of facing new challengers and testing her might was something she relished. Ramirez, on the other hand, was less enthusiastic, her expression one of resigned acceptance. Luminous remained composed, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and strategies as she considered the best course of action. The world beyond the desolate meeting grounds was abuzz with the news. Rumors spread like wildfire, tales of the Demon Lord Council's declaration reaching every corner of the globe. From the smallest villages to the grandest cities, the fear and anticipation of the coming era took hold. In the midst of it all, Reinhardt's ominous presence loomed large. His declaration of war was a shadow over the land, a promise of chaos and conflict that none could ignore. And yet, there was a sense of inevitability about it, as if the world had always been moving toward this moment. Guy, satisfied with the outcome of the meeting, settled back into his seat. Let the games begin, he murmured, his grin widening as he imagined the chaos to come. The demon lords had set their course, and the world braced itself for the storm that was sure to follow. As the council dispersed, each lord returned to their domains with a sense of purpose, readying themselves for the trials ahead. And in his domain, Reinhardt watched with a knowing smile, the pieces of his grand design falling perfectly into place. In the resplendent halls of Gladsheimer, Reinhardt sat upon his throne, the satisfaction of the recent developments evident in his eyes. The declaration of war, while premature in his original plans, had unfolded perfectly. Guy's audaciousness had earned a sliver of Reinhardt's respect. Despite the vast chasm of power between them, Guy dared to challenge the strongest being in existence. That kind of audacity was rare and slightly commendable. With a slight smirk playing on his lips, Reinhardt dismissed his musings and focused on the task at hand. He snapped his fingers, the sound resonating through the grand chamber like a thunderclap. In an instant, 3 figures materialized before him, summoned by his sheer will. The first to appear was Feldway, the stalwart leader of the primordial angels. Feldway's loyalty to Veldanava had seamlessly transferred to Reinhardt, recognizing him as the highest authority in heaven. His presence was a testament to the celestial hierarchy and the unyielding devotion he commanded. Next to materialize was Zelenus, the insectar whom Reinhardt had named and elevated to greater heights. Zelenus's transformation under Reinhardt's influence had made him a formidable entity, one who owed his existence and strength to Reinhardt's benevolence. The final figure was a surprise to anyone unfamiliar with Reinhardt's machinations. It was Noir, the primordial of black. Reinhardt had encountered Noir in the depths of the underworld. Recognizing Reinhardt's boundless potential, Noir had pledged his allegiance without hesitation. His dark presence contrasted starkly with the ethereal glow of Feldway and the alien aura of Zelenus. The 3 kneeled in unison, their heads bowed in respect and submission. Reinhardt's mocking smile grew wider as he observed them. Reinhardt's eyes glinted with a cold, calculating light as he observed the 3 kneeling figures before him. The satisfaction of his recent actions still warmed him, but now it was time to ensure his loyal subordinates' unwavering devotion. With a casual gesture, he ordered, "Rise." Feldway, Zelenus, and Noir stood up simultaneously, their eyes locked onto Reinhardt with a mixture of reverence and curiosity. The room was charged with an almost palpable tension, as if the very air awaited Reinhardt's next words. Reinhardt's gaze pierced through them, and his question hung in the air like a guillotine blade, "Are you willing to die for me?" The 3 were visibly taken aback, their surprise momentarily disrupting their composure. However, they quickly regained their poise. Feldway's eyes shone with celestial determination, Zelenus's multifaceted gaze shimmered with unwavering resolve, and Noir's dark eyes reflected an utmost pleasure of whatever fate awaited him. "Yes, my lord," they affirmed in unison, their voices strong and unhesitating. A pleased smile tugged at Reinhardt's lips as he nodded approvingly. "Good," he said softly, and with a graceful motion, he manifested his Yetzirah, the Longinusland's testament. The spear, a symbol of his unparalleled power, shimmered into existence, its presence commanding absolute attention. With a single, fluid thrust, Reinhardt drove the spear forward. The movement was almost too swift to follow, and in its wake, 3 immaculate holes appeared in the chests of Feldway, Zelenus, and Noir. The thrust of the spear defied logic, splitting into 3 precise, fatal strikes. It was a simple, yet profound demonstration of the spear's divine power and Reinhardt's mastery over it. Despite the gaping wounds in their chests, the 3 subordinates did not flinch. Instead, a serene, almost ecstatic smile spread across their faces. The pain was insignificant compared to the honor of perishing by their lord's hand. Feldway stood tall, his celestial form unwavering. Luminous, with his insectoid features, showed no sign of fear or regret. Noir's dark presence seemed to deepen, his eyes gleaming with a final, devoted light. As the life faded from their bodies, they remained standing, a testament to their unwavering loyalty and the sheer power of their will. Their deaths were not a surrender but an ultimate act of devotion, their final service to the one they revered above all. Reinhardt's cold smile lingered as he looked upon the 3 who had died willingly for him. It was a grim, yet satisfying confirmation of the absolute loyalty he commanded. The scene was one of silent, stoic reverence, the bodies of Feldway, Luminous, and Noir standing as eternal sentinels to their lord's dominion. Reinhardt observed the lifeless forms of Feldway, Luminous, and Noir with a satisfied expression. Their unwavering loyalty and willingness to die for him had been proven beyond any doubt. As a token of his appreciation, Reinhardt decided to bestow upon them his blessings. With a wave of his hand, he channeled his immense power, resurrecting the 3 as his new Einherjars. The room shimmered with a divine light as Feldway, Luminous, and Noir were brought back to life. They opened their eyes, now glowing with an ethereal brilliance. A newfound immortality coursed through their veins, and they could feel their very essence changed. They understood that as long as they continued to reap souls, they would grow ever stronger. The realization of their new state elevated their loyalty to heights previously unimaginable. The 3 knelt once more, their respect and reverence for Reinhardt evident in their every movement. "Thank you, my lord," they intoned in unison, their voices filled with profound gratitude. Reinhardt, seated on his throne, looked upon them with a mixture of pride and satisfaction. He then extended his hand, and 3 orbs materialized in the air before him. Each orb pulsed with a bright, almost blinding light, signifying the immense power contained within. The orbs floated in front of Feldway, Luminous, and Noir, each resonating with a unique energy. "These orbs," Reinhardt began, his voice resonating with authority, "contain abilities that I wish to bestow upon you. They are gifts for your loyalty and service." Without hesitation, the 3 Einherjars accepted the orbs, their hands closing around the glowing spheres. The energy from the orbs seemed to merge with their very beings, a powerful integration that would enhance their abilities even further. The light from the orbs gradually dimmed as they became one with Feldway, Luminous, and Noir. Feldway felt a surge of celestial power course through him, his angelic form glowing brighter. Luminous's insectoid features shimmered with a new, potent vitality, his multifaceted eyes reflecting a deeper strength. Noir's dark presence intensified, his aura becoming even more formidable. As the integration completed, the 3 Einherjars rose to their feet, now more powerful than ever before. They stood before Reinhardt, their devotion unwavering and their determination renewed. The room was filled with a silent, yet palpable energy, the testament of their rebirth and the promise of their future service. Reinhardt's eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched his newly empowered Einherjars. He had forged them into perfect instruments of his will, their loyalty and strength bound to him for eternity. The scene was one of silent reverence and renewed purpose, the 3 Einherjars ready to carry out any command their lord might bestow.